Chapter 35:20. Gu Fei felt that the god of the mountain and river cauldron wasn't something an ordinary extreme Dao treasure god could compare to. This was because the old man was ridiculously strong. One had to know that the fire ape primogenitor, the extreme Dao corpse demon, and the two living beings from the primogenitor realm were true extreme Dao sovereigns. Yet, the extreme Dao artifact, the mountain river cauldron, easily defeated them. The fire ape primogenitor's strength was overwhelming. The fire ape primogenitor, the extreme Dao corpse demon, and the two primogenitor realm beings were directly suppressed and subdued. They had no choice but to submit because the old man had planted a powerful restriction on them. Their lives were in the hands of the old man. Even true extreme Dao sovereigns couldn't undo this restriction. The old man subdued the four true extreme Dao sovereigns, which benefited Gu Fei. This was because the old man directly imparted the restriction to the fire ape primogenitor and the others to Gu Fei. Making these extreme Dao sovereigns listen to Gu Fei made them extremely unhappy, but they couldn't resist because they didn't want to die. Of the two primogenitor realm beings, the humanoid one was called Zhong Han. He cultivated primal chaos profound yin power and could freeze everything within 10,000 miles. The other smoke-like primogenitor realm expert was called Xian Ying. Both Zhong Han and Xian Ying had been sealed in Myriad God's ancestral city for countless years. They knew nothing about the current primogenitor realm. The inconspicuous array platform that Gu Fei's group obtained led to the primogenitor realm. Xian Ying and Zhong Han were both surprised and delighted. They were surprised that Gu Fei's group had a teleportation array platform that led to the primogenitor realm. They were delighted that they might have a chance to return to the primogenitor realm. "Alright, all of you go and help suppress the other beings." Gu Fei directly ordered the fire ape primogenitor and the others. Yes. The fire ape primogenitor and the others acknowledged the order and left. Soon enough, a series of muffled noises came from various parts of the Myriad God's ancestral city. True extreme Dao power erupted and suppressed the power that was just about to emerge. It didn't take long for the entire Myriad God ancestral city to calm down. Gu Fei was also very curious about the primogenitor's realm. It should be known that it was the origin of all the worlds in the universe. However, he couldn't go there right now because his combat power wasn't particularly strong. At this time, the ancestral god world experts that broke into Myriad God ancestral city appeared outside the City Lord Manor in hopes of obtaining the divine weapon that was sealed there. A divine artifact could move people's heart. After sealing the experts of Myriad God ancestral city, Fire Ape Progenitor and the others returned. Thus, they left Myriad God ancestral city and went outside. At this time, countless cultivators were roaming the vicinity of Myriad God ancestral city. At this moment, the Myriad deity ancestral city's defensive array had been completely repaired. The defensive array's power was definitely enough to withstand the attack of a true extreme sovereign. A city full of secrets. The little old man looked at the giant city and suddenly sighed. It was very likely that this giant city came from the primogenitor realm. Of course, this was just a guess. Let's go and contend for supremacy. The little old man puffed out his chest and strode out of the Myriad God graveyard. No one dared to stop them and they all obediently moved to the side. At this time, the eastern region was in a state of chaos because several major forces had entered the eastern region at the same time. Currently, the eastern region was in an endless war. Especially the Chaos Golden Rock race. They had just regained what belonged to them but were unlucky enough to encounter the most turbulent time in the ancestral god world. When Gu Fei and the others descended majestically from the 9 heavens above the ancestral god realm, the aura of extreme Wei spread out, shocking countless people. Let's clean up the trash in the eastern region first, then march into the central continent and unify the world. Gu Fei said to the others. However, when they returned to the eastern continent, they heard a lot of unfavorable news for the Chaos Golden Rock race. An expert of the Chaos Golden Rock race had fallen, killed by an ancestor of the Pang clan. The Skyfire clan had also sent an even more powerful creature to lead the Skyfire battle army into the eastern continent. However, what shocked the ancestor of the Skyfire clan was that even if Gu Fei wasn't around, it wouldn't be easy for them to break into the ancestral land of the Chaos Golden Rock race. At this time, the entire ancestral god world was in chaos. Not only the eastern continent, but the other 4 continents were also in chaos. Rumble, endless heavenly fire descended from the sky and completely enveloped the ancestral land of the Chaos Golden Rock race. Figures could be vaguely seen in the flames. The Skyfire clan had used the heavenly fire formation to break the defensive formation of the Chaos Golden Rock race with the power of the formation. When Jiu Fei and the others arrived near the ancestral land of the Chaos Golden Rock race, they were stunned by the scene in front of them. The monstrous heavenly fire illuminated the entire world in a blood-red color. It burned to the point where even the void was annihilated, directly turning into ashes that drifted in the air. This, Jiu Fei looked at the scene in disbelief. Kill. Jiu Fei ordered. In the next moment, the 4 extreme grade supremes behind him immediately pounced into the heavenly fire. In the next moment, miserable screams were heard from the sea of fire. In just a few breaths of time, a figure flashed in front of Jiu Fei. The fire ape primogenitor was already holding a head. It was the head of the Skyfire clan's leader. Who had the ability to kill the ancestor of the Skyfire clan in such a short period of time? This person was the fire ape ancestor. The heavenly fire formation was like child's play to him. As soon as the ancestor of the Skyfire clan died, the soldiers in the heavenly fire formation fell into chaos. Then, Zhong Han, Xian Ying, and the extreme grade corpse demon broke through the formation. The result of the heavenly fire formation being broken through was fatal to the soldiers of the Skyfire clan. All the disciples of the Skyfire clan were killed. The Skyfire clan sent their soldiers to the eastern continent for the second time, but they were still annihilated. It's time. Jiu Fei looked up. It was night time and the sky was dotted with stars. At this time, the protective formation of the chaotic Golden Rock clan's ancestral land was still in operation. However, a door of light had appeared in the void, leading to the depths of the ancestral land. Kang Q, the ancestor of the chaotic Golden Rock clan, came out personally and invited Jiu Fei and the others to the palace in the depths of the ancestral land. Brother Jiu, why were you gone for so long? Kang Q asked after the guest and the host had taken their seats. Well, something unexpected happened, so I was delayed. Jiu Fei glanced at Kang Q, who was sitting on the throne in the middle of the palace. This guy seemed to be doing well. His cultivation had improved a lot. I see. Kang Q said thoughtfully. He then looked at the 4 extreme grade supremes standing behind Jiu Fei. The aura they exuded was so powerful that he almost couldn't breathe. Rumble. Especially the 2 beings from the primogenitor realm, there were faint sounds of wind and thunder around them, which shocked Kang Q. Where did Jiu Fei find these helpers? Kang Q knew the fire ape ancestor, but he didn't expect the fire ape ancestor to stand behind Jiu Fei obediently. Could it be that even the fire ape ancestor, a true extreme grade supremes, had submitted to Jiu Fei? That must be the case. The more Kang Q thought about it, the more excited he became. The 4 true extreme grade supremes had appeared in front of him at the same time. This was absolutely shocking. Once the 4 true extreme grade supremes appeared, who could compete with them? Kang Q felt that as long as Jiu Fei was willing to help him, he could definitely unify the ancestral god realm and become the strongest existence in the ancestral god realm. During the period when Jiu Fei wasn't around, Kang Q had lived a very sullen life. There were a few times when he almost didn't return, and there were more assassinations against him. As a result, Kang Q could only stay in the ancestral land and rarely went out. Now that Jiu Fei was back, everything was full of variables. Just as Jiu Fei was telling Kang Q about what had happened during this period, the news that the Skyfire clan's army had been completely wiped out spread. All the super forces who received the news couldn't sit still. It was known that the Skyfire clan's most powerful army was led by an incomparably powerful old ancestor. However, it was a pity that such an army had been completely wiped out. No one would believe it if they told others about it. The news of Jiu Fei's return also spread. In an instant, all the leaders of the forces in the East Continent couldn't sit still, fearing that the fierce man would come knocking on their doors. Soon after, Even the Pang clan was expelled from the East continent. It was a message from a chaotic creature to the Pang clan. If they didn't leave the East continent, they would have to stay forever. After the Skyfire clan and the Pang clan were expelled by Gu Fei, the remaining forces were the local forces in the East region. Seeing that the situation wasn't right, these forces immediately threw themselves into Gu Fei's camp. These fellas were all fence-sitters and absolutely couldn't be trusted. However, Gu Fei didn't eradicate these forces. So what if they were fence-sitters? As long as they were useful and could help, it was fine. However, on the third night after Gu Fei's return, a ball of divine light fell from the sky and landed in the East region. The ball of divine light smashed a huge pit in the ground. The divine light dissipated and a figure appeared in the pit. That person stood up and looked up at the sky. His golden eyes emitted an incomparably sharp gaze. He walked out of the pit and went to the ancestral land of the chaotic Golden Rock clan. After taking a look, he punched the protective formation of the ancestral land of the chaotic Golden Rock clan. Boom! A loud sound rang out, causing the entire world to tremble. This person's fist smashed onto the divine protector light, directly shaking the entire formation. One could well imagine how powerful this punch was. A group of people immediately rushed out of the ancestral land of the chaotic Golden Rock clan. Chapter 35:21. In the East continent of the ancestral god world, outside the ancestral land of the chaotic Golden Rock race, a mass of chaotic divine light descended from the sky and smashed onto the ground. The ground shook and dust rose high into the sky. A tall figure walked out of the cloud of dust and a tyrannical aura spread in all directions. The mysterious man arrived in front of the chaotic Golden Rock race's defensive formation. Without saying a word, he attacked the chaotic Golden Rock race's defensive formation. Boom! With a loud bang, the entire void shook. The protective force that was originally hidden in the void appeared and a layer of light barrier appeared in the void, enveloping the entire ancestral land of the chaotic Golden Rock race. There were countless Tao patterns intertwining on the light barrier, forming mysterious and ancient Tao diagrams. Each Tao diagram emitted the most powerful fluctuations of power at the extreme Tao level. Under the pitch-black night sky, the layer of divine light that enveloped the entire ancestral land of the chaotic Golden Rock race was extremely eye-catching. In particular, the mighty aura of the extreme path directly alarmed all the powerhouses in the entire East continent. Who dares to attack the ancestral land of the chaotic Golden Rock race? A loud shout was heard from the ancestral land of the chaotic Golden Rock race. Then, a group of people rushed out from the depths of the ancestral land of the chaotic Golden Rock race. Could it be the guys from the Pang race? They really don't know what's good for them, someone shouted. The Pang race and the Skyfire race had both attacked the ancestral land of the chaotic Golden Rock race before. A few days ago, an ancestor of the Pang race had personally come to attack the ancestral land of the chaotic Golden Rock race. If Kang Q had not personally taken action, the Pang clan patriarch would have broken through the Chaos Golden Rock clan's defensive formation and killed his way into the Chaos Golden Rock clan's ancestral land. At this time, the chaotic Golden Rock race was naturally the strongest race in the East continent. This was because even the Earth Spirit race had submitted to them. The other powerful races were definitely not a match for the chaotic Golden Rock race. Therefore, whoever defeated the chaotic Golden Rock race would be able to unify the East continent and become the overlord of the ancestral god world. Of course, it was definitely not an easy task to defeat the chaotic Golden Rock race. After all, the ancestor of the chaotic Golden Rock race used to be in extreme supremacy. Boom! Another loud sound was heard. The layer of divine light formed by the power of the entire formation became a little unstable. This shocked the group of people that rushed out from the depths of the chaotic Golden Rock clan's ancestral ground. The enemy is powerful. We have to ask the old ancestor for help. An expert of the chaotic Golden Rock race from the older generation said loudly, "I'll go invite the old ancestor." Someone answered, turned around, and rushed into the depths of the ancestral land. The person outside was so powerful that he could even shake the guardian formation of the ancestor's land. The person who could shake the Guardian formation was definitely someone who could contend with Kang Q. The Chaos Golden Rock clan didn't have many clansmen, and there were very few experts in the clan. There were even fewer experts who could stand on their own. Peng Jingtian, the Golden Rock goddess, and the others were in seclusion in the ancestral grounds and would not come out easily. Moreover, if the enemy was at the same level as Kang Q, they would not be a match for him. Boom! A heavy crash rang out, and the entire protective formation shook. The divine light that enveloped the entire Golden Rock race began to dim. The experts of the chaotic Golden Rock clan were all stunned. It seemed like it wouldn't be long before the enemy broke through the protective formation and killed their way into the ancestors' land. At this moment, in a valley in the depths of the chaotic Golden Rock clan's ancestors' land, a black-robed young man sitting on a boulder under a tree suddenly opened his eyes. "What's going on?" the black-robed young man said. In the next moment, a figure appeared under the boulder. "An extreme-level expert is attacking the protective formation here," the newcomer said respectfully. This person's entire body was enveloped by primal chi. This was no ordinary primal chi, it was primal cold chi. The place where he stood, even the void seemed to be frozen. "Is that so? Go and take a look," Ji Fei said. "Yes, master." The chaotic silhouette disappeared into the void. In the next moment, the chaotic figure appeared in front of the expert who was attacking the protective formation. There was a layer of divine light between the two experts. Boom! At this moment, the person outside punched out and blasted a huge hole in the layer of divine light. Countless Dao patterns dissipated in the void. What? The chaotic Golden Rock clan was already dumbfounded. This guy was too powerful. He could actually use brute force to break through the protective formation of the chaotic Golden Rock clan. One should know that this was not an ordinary formation, but an extreme-level formation. In other words, the person who could break through an extreme-level formation definitely had the strength of an extreme level. This was because only extreme Dao-level power could break through an extreme Dao-level formation. At this moment, the person walked in with large strides. His tyrannical aura made the chaotic Golden Rock clan feel extremely oppressed. Even breathing was difficult. Zhonghan stared at the tall figure and felt very surprised. This person had an aura that he was extremely familiar with. The person stopped in his tracks and suddenly looked up at Zhonghan in the sky. He was also very surprised. The gazes of the two powerhouses collided, and transparent ripples appeared in the space between them. At this moment, Kang Q's figure appeared in the distance. He did not come over because he knew that even if he wanted to attack, he would have to think twice. An expert of this level was too powerful. "You're also a living being of the ancestral realm?" Zhonghan asked the person. "What do you think?" The person said coldly, "Say your head." Zhonghan was infuriated when he heard this. He immediately threw a punch at the mysterious man below, and a powerful extreme Dao power erupted from his fist. The void was directly destroyed, and the terrifying power formed directly obliterated the mysterious person. "Do you think I'm afraid of you?" The mysterious person did not dodge. He actually opened his mouth and sucked in all the destructive power. Then, he swallowed it into his body and refined it. What? When Zhonghan saw this, he could not help but be shocked. Could it be that the other party cultivated a powerful technique from the ancestral realm, the Sky Devourer technique? In this way, the other party used more and more spiritual chi, while the opponent of this guy was in a miserable state. All the essence chi in his body was clearly being devoured. At this time, Zhonghan no longer held back and attacked with all his strength. An endless amount of cold air erupted from his body and the surrounding void was directly frozen. However, Zhonghan was like a fish in water in the void. The mysterious person directly broke through the layers of cold air, and his right fist instantly smashed in front of Zhonghan. The fist rapidly accelerated in Zhonghan's eyes. Seeing this, Zhonghan directly punched out. The two fists instantly collided, and a loud explosion erupted. The two figures separated. The mysterious person separated his hands, and a battle spear immediately appeared in front of him. He then grabbed it and directly stabbed at Zhonghan. Swoosh! Zhong Han once again disappeared into the void. Even the other extreme grade supremes could not sense his existence. The mysterious person finally showed his face. He was an existence that looked exactly like a human. He was tall and had a mighty appearance, and he looked like a talented person. "Come out!" the mysterious man roared, and a vibrating force immediately spread out from his body, enveloping everything within a radius of 1,000 feet with him as the center. However, he did not notice Zhong Han. Good fella, the mysterious person was getting a little impatient. He gritted his teeth and attacked with all his strength. In the next moment, the void around him violently shook again. This time, the mysterious person finally sensed Zhong Han's figure. All he saw was a blurry figure hiding at the side, motionless. "Come out!" the mysterious person shouted, and then directly punched the void where Zhong Han was. "Huh! How is this possible?" The void shattered, and a figure directly fell out of the void. This person was Zhong Han. Not only did he cultivate chaotic cold chi, but he also cultivated spatial techniques. Zhong Han's spatial technique was similar to one of the 9 secrets of immortal path, the antivoid technique. Of course, the antivoid technique was more profound than spatial techniques. "Die!" the mysterious person roared, and a saber light directly rushed out of his body, slashing at Zhong Han. Wherever the sharp saber light passed, a pitch-black spatial crack was left in the void. Seeing this, Zhong Han directly flipped his right hand, and an item immediately appeared in his hand. It was a bell, a bronze bell. Without hesitation, he directly shook the bell in his hand. A clear and melodious sound was heard, and the saber light immediately shattered in the void, turning into specks of spiritual light and dissipating in the void. Another sound rang out, and everyone's souls shook. This sound contained an incomparable temptation, and the primordial spirits of the weaker cultivators almost left their bodies. However, the mysterious person was not affected by the sound of the bell at all. He directly attacked Zhong Han at an extremely fast speed. However, Zhong Han's speed was not slow either. The two figures moved quickly in the void, and the weaker cultivators couldn't even see their shadows. These two, Kang Q, who was watching the battle from afar, felt very depressed when he saw that the two fellows were actually locked in battle. A true battle between extreme supremes was incomparably terrifying. Everything in their path was destroyed, and nothing was left behind. The two powerhouses directly charged out of the chaotic Golden Rock clan's ancestral land. No one could withstand the true might of the extreme path. The clansmen of the chaotic Golden Rock clan had already retreated at the first instance. Otherwise, the group of people from before would definitely have died under the might of the extreme path. Chapter 35-22. The appearance of Myriad God Ancestral City in the Ancestral God Realm attracted the attention of all the forces in the 5 regions. Some old antiques who hadn't shown their faces for a long time also appeared in the graveyard of the gods. Moreover, even after Gu Fei's group left Myriad God Ancestral City and returned to the ancestral land of the Chaos Golden Rock clan in the Eastern Continent, there were still countless experts rushing towards the graveyard of the gods. Despite knowing that the graveyard of the gods was filled with great dangers, they still wanted to go. It had to be said that the Myriad God Ancestral Sword was too attractive to the Ancestral God realm. Some people knew that their cultivation wasn't high enough and that entering the graveyard of the gods was akin to moths flying into a flame, but they were still willing to be the moths. Of course, the number 1 divine weapon in the Ancestral God realm, the Myriad God Ancestral Sword, had already been taken by Gu Fei. Even if those people flipped the City Lord's mansion upside down, they wouldn't be able to find the sword. After Gu Fei left with the 4 Supremes, the City Lord Mansion in the Myriad God's ancestral city became an ownerless place. However, the current City Lord Mansion was probably more dangerous than when Gu Fei was here. Because some of the seals in the City Lord's Mansion had loosened, the primogenitor world beings imprisoned in the City Lord's Mansion had started to attack the seals. Powerful beings like Zhong Han and Xian Ying had broken out of the seals, but the weaker ones were still imprisoned in the City Lord's Mansion. The experts from the Ancestral God realm immediately rushed into the mansion after Gu Fei left. The East Pole Old Ancestor naturally didn't have the ability to stop them. He tactfully retreated because he had already plundered all the good things. There were some divine treasures that even he couldn't get his hands on, so others naturally couldn't either. Only a true extreme Tao supremacy City Lord mansion could possibly take away all the divine treasures. Rumble, at this time, the sound of wind and thunder came from the myriad god ancestral cities City Lord's mansion, shaking the entire place. Divine lights constantly rushed out of the mansion as powerful existences were fighting inside. For the sake of peerless divine treasures, even existences like the East Pole Old Ancestor would be envious and fight over them. This was inevitable. Buzz. At this moment, a god artifact directly broke through the protective formations of the City Lord's estate and charged out. The moment the god artifact emerged from the estate, it erupted with a terrifying, heaven-devouring power. In the next moment, all the spiritual energy in the surroundings began to gather towards the god artifact madly. "It's the heaven-devouring pot," someone cried out. Afterwards, extremely powerful figures directly charged towards the god artifact that was devouring the energy of the world in the sky from all directions. Everyone seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. Their eyes were bloodshot, and they all wanted to get their hands on that divine artifact as soon as possible. "All of you, scram!" At this moment, a huge figure suddenly stood up from the City Lord's mansion. Then, with a wave of his hand, he sent all the incoming experts flying. The cultivators with weaker cultivation bases were directly shattered in the void. They did not even have the chance to scream before they were reduced to a mist of blood, their bodies and souls destroyed. The experts of the ancestral god realm who saw this scene from afar all had a change of expression. The giant appeared too suddenly, and there were streams of primal chaos swirling around his body. An extremely powerful and terrifying aura erupted from the giant's body, and the void around him constantly trembled from the impact of the primal chaos power. Spiderweb-like spatial cracks continuously appeared in the void around the giant's body. Seeing this scene, even the old antiques of the ancestral god realm could not help but be moved. This guy was incredible. He was probably even stronger than the East Pole Old Ancestor. The strength of the East Pole Old Ancestor was well known. It was not that there were no existences stronger than the East Pole Old Ancestor, but there were definitely very few of them in the entire ancestral god realm. At this moment, the giant opened his mouth and was about to swallow the heaven-devouring pot in the sky. However, at this moment, a divine light rushed out from the City Lord's residence and snatched the heaven-devouring pot away before the giant could do so. "You're courting death." The giant was instantly enraged. Two incomparably sharp and fierce light rushed out of his eyes. He stretched out his right hand and directly grabbed the guy who snatched the heaven-devouring pot. The expert who snatched the heaven-devouring pot was too small in front of the giant. A finger of the giant was much bigger than this expert. The moment the giant's hand grabbed down, the void around the expert was sealed. "Hee. Want to catch me? Dream on." That person laughed heartily. Then, he directly disappeared into the void. Even the giant's sealing power could not imprison him. Who is it? How dare he snatch food from the hands of this big guy? The old antiques of the ancestral god realm were dumbfounded. That guy was really too awesome. That giant was not an ordinary living being. Perhaps, that giant was a living being from that place. Roar. The giant was furious. Endless primal chaos energy erupted from his body and instantly enveloped the entire City Lord's mansion, and then the entire region. Exclamations immediately came from the City Lord's mansion. Several extremely powerful figures directly broke through the layers of primal chaos energy and rushed out from the City Lord's mansion. Kill. The giant immediately attacked a few experts. However, the other party wasn't weak either. One of them even transformed into a giant that was as tall as the giant. Roar. That person opened his mouth and roared. Powerful earth element divine energy erupted and dispersed the surrounding primal chaos energy. Two giant hands instantly collided. Boom. With a loud explosion, two powerful forces erupted. This was the collision of primal chaos energy and earth element divine energy. The two giants that were even taller than mountains were simultaneously pushed back by the opposing force. With every step back, a building was trampled to pieces by the two giants. The City Lord's mansion was in complete chaos. These two fellows were simply two gods of destruction. Everywhere they passed, everything was destroyed. The primal chaos energy and earth element divine energy mutually cancelled each other out. But a part of the energy still leaked out, which was also destructive to the City Lord's mansion. However, the myriad gods' ancestral city could not be destroyed. Only the buildings on the ground were destroyed, but this place still existed. The destroyed City Lord's mansion would be rebuilt by a big shot at the right time. But now, a small part of the City Lord's mansion had been destroyed by these two fellows. Even so, it was enough to stun the old geezers of the ancestral god world. How could these two fellows, the two giants towered between heaven and earth? Their exhales turned into hurricanes that swept the nearby buildings into the sky. Then, they were torn to pieces and scattered in all directions. Those fragments weren't something that just anyone could withstand. Even a quasi-supreme would be injured if hit by them, let alone other cultivators. The two experts' battle prowess had long surpassed the quasi-supreme realm. They were even stronger than those who used to be supreme existences. This was also the reason why they could destroy the City Lord's mansion. This was the battle prowess that was infinitely close to the extreme supreme realm. These two giants could be called a different kind of supreme. Even if they encountered a true extreme supreme, they would still be able to escape unscathed. While the City Lord's mansion was in chaos, in the ancestral land of the primal chaos golden rock race in the eastern continent of the ancestral god world, Kang Q and the others were facing a crisis that could wipe out their entire race. The primal chaos golden rock race's people had come knocking on their door. The newcomer was extremely powerful and could actually fight Zhong Han. The true divine might of the extreme Tao spread out in all directions. But very quickly, the mysterious person retreated because the entire world seemed to have changed. It was as if something had been activated. It was as if a power stronger than the extreme Tao was awakening. What's going on? In the depths of the primal chaos golden rock race's ancestral land, Ji Yufei, who was sitting cross-legged on a boulder, suddenly opened his eyes and looked up at the sky. It was as if a terrifying existence that could kill an extreme supreme was about to awaken. How is this possible? Ji Yufei realized that he couldn't see anything because the entire world seemed to be in chaos. Even with the martial path heavenly eye, he couldn't see through it. But he knew that if the power in the depths of the sky truly awakened, even an extreme supreme would be out of luck. It was a power that could suppress an extreme supreme and pose a threat to them. Perhaps that was the reason why the extreme supreme from the primal chaos golden rock race retreated. At this time, Zhong Han had retreated into the ancestral land of the primal chaos golden rock race. He had completely retracted his aura of the extreme Tao, as if he had become an ordinary person. He didn't appear in his original form, but in the form of a human to walk around the ancestral god world. It wasn't just Zhong Han, even Shen Ying, the fire ape primogenitor, and the extreme corpse demon carefully retracted their aura of the extreme Tao because they could feel that the power in the sky was affecting them. Could this be the reason for the disappearance of those extreme supreme beings? Ji Yufei muttered to himself, but he knew that things weren't that simple. At this moment, it wasn't just the 5 continents of the ancestral god world. Even those existences in the graveyard of the gods who were using the extreme Tao power chose to retract it and be cautious. There were no problems before, so how did it become like this? Could it be that some existence really activated something? The shock in Ji Yufei's heart couldn't be any greater. This was because the consequences were too severe. In the entire ancestral god world, they probably couldn't use the extreme Tao power anymore. Once they used it, it would trigger the power in the sky that was even more powerful than the extreme Tao power. There was no doubt that the power suppressed the extreme Tao power. At this time, the entire ancestral god world gradually calmed down. Even the old antiques were palpitating, and the extreme supreme beings were even more uneasy. Countless experts couldn't believe that an extreme Tao being could be suppressed. There was actually a power stronger than the extreme Tao power in this world. How was this possible? Chapter 35-23. After countless years of preparation, have we finally succeeded? In the human realm, there was a place filled with ghost chi. This was a ghost domain, the legendary and mysterious plentiful city ghost palace. This place seemed to never see the light of day, and it was surrounded by ghost chi. In the depths of the plentiful city ghost palace, there was a palace floating in the sky. It was an ancient palace regarded as a sacred palace by countless ghost cultivators in the plentiful city ghost palace. The old voice that appeared just now came from the plentiful city ghost palace. At this time, there was a shocking change in the depths of the human realm. A power that was powerful enough to suppress the extreme grade supremes seemed to be awakening. The power of the extreme grade supremes was too strong. If such an existence appeared in the human realm, it would definitely cause a devastating blow to the human realm. At this time, not only did the ancestral god realm change, but the human realm and heaven realm also changed. It was as if there was an extremely terrifying creature awakening between heaven and earth. No one knew what happened. Perhaps only the extreme grade supremes knew such a big secret. Suppressing the extreme grade supremes? Sure enough. Such a voice came from the Jiang clan of the desolate antiquity. Old ancestor, the experts of the Jiang clan who were cultivating in the ancestral god realm were all alarmed by this voice. It wasn't that the extreme grade supremes couldn't appear in the human realm or heaven realm. As long as they didn't reveal the cultivation and power of the extreme grade supremes, they would be fine. There was nothing in the human realm. All the forbidden areas in the human realm were very quiet. However, there was a change in a dangerous place in the heaven realm. An extreme grade supremes chose to appear at this time. A huge figure appeared between the heaven and earth, and the extreme grade supremes divine might spread in all directions. However, in the next moment, a bolt of lightning fell from the sky and directly struck the figure, causing it to dim. The appearance of the supremes alarmed countless experts in the heaven realm, but no one dared to approach. One should know that not everyone could withstand the extreme grade supremes' divine might. Even outside the dangerous place, all the experts in the heaven realm were inexplicably shocked. Even their divine souls were trembling. The extreme grade supremes' divine might spread out, and almost all the experts in the heaven realm felt it immediately. Countless heaven realm experts' gazes were attracted. Roar! A roar rang out from the forbidden land, causing the entire forbidden land to tremble. The ground cracked and the mountains crumbled in the void. It was a terrifying scene that could destroy the heavens and the earth. However, the power in the sky was gathering rapidly, and dazzling bolts of lightning struck down from the sky. Very soon, the huge figure in the sky above the danger zone was dispersed by the lightning. Then, a terrifying figure appeared in the sky. At this moment, a figure rushed out from the depths of the forbidden land and directly soared into the sky, attacking the mysterious figure in the sky. In the next moment, the power of the extreme Tao erupted from the figure. The figure instantly turned into a ball of golden light, which was many times more dazzling than the divine sun in the sky. This is the metal element exalted being? He's actually still alive. Isn't this the place where metal element exalt perished? He actually didn't die. Someone exclaimed. Although the great calamity back then didn't affect the heaven realm too much, and it didn't cause any destructive damage to the heaven realm, there were still supremes who died in the heaven realm. The place where metal element exalted being perished became a terrifying forbidden land. Any living creature that entered this forbidden land would definitely die. The extreme grade supremes left behind here were too powerful. Any living creature that touched the extreme grade supremes left behind here would instantly be destroyed in both body and soul. I didn't think that he actually didn't die. He's been hiding in this forbidden land all this time. Someone said in disbelief. At this moment, the mysterious figure in the sky also rushed down from the sky and directly collided with the golden light that soared into the sky. Boom! The entire world instantly darkened, and all the light disappeared in an instant. This was absolute darkness. In the next moment, the entire void collapsed, and two figures rushed into the chaos. However, even in the chaos, the power that erupted in the sky could still penetrate the void and continuously bombarded metal element exalted being's body. Metal element exalted being's skin and flesh were immediately torn apart. Golden blood splattered everywhere, and he was in an extremely sorry state. There were even some places where his bones were exposed. The power in the sky suppressed the extreme grade supremes, which made Metal Element Exalted Being inexplicably shocked. Previously, he was still very disdainful. One had to know that extreme grade supremes were the strongest existences in the world. There was actually a living creature that could compete with extreme grade supremes in this world. Metal Element Exalted Being wasn't wrong. If it was in the primordial era, extreme grade supremes were invincible existences, but now, it wasn't the era where powerhouses were produced in large numbers. Boom. It was as if the world was collapsing, and the sky seemed like it was going to explode. The power that condensed the entire world directly pressed down. That blurry mysterious figure seemed to have received the support of this invincible power, and actually tore off Metal Element Exalted Being's left arm. This scene was really too shocking. One had to know that Metal Element Exalted Being's arm was actually torn off by someone. Everyone who saw this scene was dumbfounded. Then, an even more shocking scene happened. They saw that mysterious figure instantly enter Metal Element Exalted Being's body. In the next moment, Metal Element Exalted Being's body exploded with a bang. The Supreme Extreme Path physique exploded and turned into a cloud of golden blood mist. The 9 Extreme Path Tao patterns floated in the blood mist, and the dazzling electric light wrapped around the 9 Extreme Path Tao patterns like spider silk. Cracks began to appear on Metal Element Exalted Being's 9 Supreme Grade Tao patterns. What's going on? Is he dying and his Tao vanishing? Some powerhouses of the older generation couldn't help but exclaim when they saw this scene. For cultivators, dying and having their Tao vanish was the most terrifying thing. That was because dying and having one's Tao vanish represented the destruction of one's body and soul. One wouldn't even be able to become a ghost. It was the most thorough way to die. In the next moment, the 9 extreme grade Tao patterns actually crumbled. How is this possible? A weak wave of divine will spread out from the crumbled extreme grade Tao patterns, and an illusory figure dissipated in the void. Metal Element Exalted Being's power was actually devoured by the power in the depths of the sky, and the power descending from the sky became even stronger. The power that originally belonged to Metal Element Exalted Being's extreme grade Tao patterns weakened rapidly, and soon disappeared from the world. An unimaginably powerful extreme grade sovereign died just like that. This made the powerhouses of the older generation of the ancestral god realm dumbfounded. They couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Chapter 35-24. In the Heaven Realm, the Metal Element Supreme was born in the Metal Element Impasse. However, the poor fellow was killed as soon as he was born. An extreme grade Supreme was killed just like that. All the experts in the Heaven Realm were dumbfounded. It couldn't be helped, it was an extreme grade Supreme. At this time, the experts in the Heaven Realm also realized that the power that appeared in the heaven and earth could really suppress an extreme grade Supreme. This was no joke. Apart from the Heaven Realm, all the other great realms underwent changes. The extreme grade Supreme's power was suppressed. This surprised and delighted the Quasi-Supremes. One should know that a Quasi-Supremes would be invincible if they didn't use their extreme grade Supreme. What happened in the Heaven Realm was so shocking that it even spread to the human realm. It had a very good deterrent effect, making those experts who could use their extreme grade Supreme to behave themselves. At this time, all the extreme grade Supremes in the ancestral god realm went into hiding. They didn't dare to walk around the ancestral god realm unscrupulously. The peace in the ancestral god realm only lasted for a few days before the flames of war were ignited again. The Skyfire clan and the Huge clan no longer had any scruples. Who were they afraid of? Especially the Skyfire clan. This time, a great elder of the Fire Sky clan personally led 100,000 Skyfire battle troops into the eastern continent to annihilate the Chaos Golden Rock clan. However, the Chaos Golden Rock clan was not to be trifled with. Even if Gu Fei's subordinates couldn't fight, it wouldn't be easy for them to take down the Chaos Golden Rock clan's ancestral land. The Skyfire clan's great elder killed his way to the Chaos Golden Rock clan's ancestral land. The killing intent of 100,000 Skyfire battle troops was so strong that it was enough to change the heaven and earth. Guys from the Chaos Golden Rock clan, do you dare to come out and fight? The Skyfire clan's great elder stood in front of the 100,000 Skyfire battle troops. His voice directly passed through the defensive formation and spread throughout the ancestral land of the Chaos Golden Rock clan. These guys are really fast. An old voice came from the depths of the Chaos Golden Rock clan's ancestral land. Then, a powerful figure walked out from the depths. This man had white hair and white eyebrows. He was tall, and his eyes shone with a golden light. He was Peng Jingtian, an elder of the Chaos Golden Rock clan. There were two people behind Peng Jingtian, both of whom had extremely powerful auras. It was a man and a woman. The man was a middle-aged man, and the woman looked somewhat dispirited. This middle-aged man was none other than Peng Shi. The young woman was the Golden Rock Goddess. Peng Shi was Peng Jingtian's son, and the Golden Rock Goddess was Peng Jingtian's granddaughter. The three of them had become the pillars of the Golden Rock race. Before Kang Q's return, the Golden Crow clan had almost exterminated the Chaos Golden Rock clan. Even if Kang Q had a large number of geniuses and could nurture a large number of experts, it would still take time for those experts to truly grow. Furthermore, no one knew if the clansmen who were nurtured through this method would be able to truly become a powerhouse, even if their combat strength rose rapidly by pulling up seedlings to help them grow stronger. Haha, outside the grand defensive array, Great Elder Heavenfire laughed loudly. Are you clowns hired by a monkey? You want to fight against my 100,000 soldiers with just the three of you? Great Elder Heavenfire laughed loudly. I alone am enough to kill all of you. Peng Jingtian came in front of Great Elder Heavenfire and stared at him coldly. They were separated by a layer of divine light formed by the power of the grand defensive array. Haha, is that so? You're really boasting shamelessly. Come at me if you have the guts. Let me see what you've got to say such big words. Great Elder Heavenfire crossed his arms in front of his chest and said disdainfully, There's no need to use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. Old ancestor, let me go and kill him. A middle-aged warrior clad in black divine armor and holding a spear came out from behind Great Elder Heavenfire, riding a black flood dragon. Very good. Great Elder Heavenfire nodded. The warrior was overjoyed. He rode the black flood dragon and charged forward. His battle intent was like a rainbow, and a shocking murderous aura emanated from his body. An existence that could erupt with such a murderous aura must be a godlike existence that crawled out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. This general wasn't a nameless figure in the Heavenly Fire clan. He was the Black Flood Dragon General, and his cultivation had already reached the quasi-sovereign realm. The quasi-supreme realm was divided into three minor realms: beginner, middle, and upper realm. The Black Flood Dragon Warrior was a beginner quasi-supreme realm expert. At that moment, a door appeared on the defensive array of the chaotic Golden Rock clan. Peng Jingtian walked out with Peng Shi and the Golden Rock Goddess. As soon as they walked out of the defensive array, the door that appeared on the divine light behind them disappeared. You really dared to come out. Then die. The Black Flood Dragon Warrior attacked Peng Jingtian. The spear in his hand turned into a black light that pierced through the void and pierced the center of Peng Jingtian's eyebrows. However, Peng Jingtian did not dodge. Just as he was about to be pierced by the Black Dragon General's spear, a large hand suddenly reached out from the side and grabbed the spear's head. What? The Black Flood Dragon General's shock was no small matter. This guy actually managed to grab his spear. How was that possible? The person who grabbed his spear was the dispirited middle-aged man who had been standing behind Peng Jingtian. Your opponent is me. Peng Shi raised his head and looked at the Black Flood Dragon Warrior with a sharp gaze. Without hesitation, he slammed his palm towards the Black Dragon General. Powerful divine power immediately exploded from his palm. The Black Flood Dragon Warrior wanted to pull his spear back, but it was as if the spear had grown out of his opponent's hand. No matter how much divine power he used, he could not pull it back. The Black Flood Dragon Warrior had no choice but to let go of the spear. He rode the Black Flood Dragon and dodged the attack. The Black Flood Dragon roared continuously. You dare to fight my father? What a joke. Peng Shi looked at the Black Flood Dragon Warrior coldly. The Black Flood Dragon Warrior was shocked and angry. His opponent's combat power was indeed strong, but he could not back down now. He wanted to retreat, but he could not afford to lose face. Come back. You are no match for him. Great Elder Tianhua said. His face darkened. Even he did not expect Yi Futian's cultivation base and combat prowess to be so powerful. Great Elder, the Black Flood Dragon warrior was shocked to hear Elder Tianhua's words. However, he could not retreat even if he wanted to, because Peng Shi had already locked onto him. Chapter 35-25. Die. Peng Shi was extremely domineering. He instantly appeared above the Black Jiao General's head and slammed down on the Black Jiao General like a golden sun. No. The Black Dragon General was scared out of his wits. He wanted to flee, but he could not. The divine power of metal descended from the sky and trapped him, forcing him to watch as the ball of golden light descended from above and landed on him. Boom. With a loud bang, the Black WM General and the Black WM he was riding exploded into a bloody mist by the golden light that descended from the sky. You're courting death. Great Elder Tianhua was infuriated. He extended his right hand and grabbed towards Peng Shi. The power of a pinnacle quasi-supreme being erupted from his hand, and Peng Shi was immediately sent flying towards the huge hand. What? Peng Shi was shocked. He hurriedly circulated his mysterious art in an attempt to disperse the devouring power that enveloped him. However, he was shocked to find that even if he used all his strength, he would still be sent flying towards the incoming hand. Right at the moment when Peng Shi was about to be grabbed by the hand, a cold laugh resounded, and then a figure appeared by Peng Shi's side. The figure pulled Peng Shi back before slapping his palm forward. Bam! Two giant hands collided. The power of two quasi-supreme contenders collided. The two figures were pushed back by the power of the other. How dare you sneak attack a junior? You're too shameless. Peng Jingtian stared at Great Elder Tianhua and said disdainfully. Peng Shi had already retreated. I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you. If you want to fight, let's fight. As Great Elder Tianhua spoke, he had already made his move. He stretched out his hand and a giant hand appeared in the void, grabbing at Peng Jingtian. Peng Jingtian didn't bother to say anything. In the world of cultivation, the one with the harder fist was the boss. The Heavenly Fire Clan wanted to subdue the chaotic Golden Rock Clan. However, the chaotic Golden Rock Clan was the overlord of the Eastern continent. It was definitely not an easy task for Great Elder Tianhua to break into the chaotic Golden Rock Clan's ancestral land. Peng Jingtian laughed and rushed forward. Boom! With a loud bang, it directly collided with the big hand that was grabbing at it, causing the big hand to dissipate in the void. Two powerful figures moved quickly in the void, fighting fiercely. At this time, the two powerhouses didn't dare to use the power of the extreme Tao. They both fought with the battle strength of a peak quasi-supreme being. For a moment, it was hard to tell who would win. Everyone was watching nervously. If Peng Jingtian lost, there would be no one else in the Chaos Golden Rock race who could compete with Elder Tianhua. Of course, except for Kang Qiu. If Peng Jingtian was defeated, Kang Qiu would have to fight. However, if Great Elder Heavenly Fire was defeated by Peng Jingtian, then the 100,000 soldiers of the Heavenly Fire Clan would be in danger. The 100,000 soldiers retreated to the sky and formed a battle formation. It was a very powerful battle formation that could gather the strength of 100,000 soldiers together. Once such a battle formation was activated, it would definitely be able to contend against a peak quasi-supreme being expert. Kill. Great Elder Heavenly Fire's killing intent was shocking. Rays of quasi-supreme divine light rushed out from his body and turned into a powerful fiery divine sword that pierced towards Peng Jingtian. Buzz. Peng Jingtian's body emitted the sound of a sword. Then, pieces of golden feathers flew out of his body. In the next moment, these golden feathers turned into sword lights and flew towards the fire element divine sword that pierced through the air. Two quasi-supreme divine sword principles collided. The fiery divine force and the metal divine force collided and exploded. Dazzling sword light rushed out and pierced through the heaven and earth. The fiery divine force and the metal divine force continuously collided and burst into balls of divine light. At this moment, the two powerhouses seemed to have turned into two invincible sword gods fighting. The sword chi of a peak quasi-supreme being spread out, forcing Peng Shi and the Golden Rock Goddess to continuously retreat. Peng Jingtian and Great Elder Heavenly Fire used their techniques to switch positions, wanting to defeat each other. However, the two's cultivation and combat power were similar. It was definitely not an easy task to determine a winner. While Peng Jingtian and Great Elder Heavenly Fire were fighting endlessly, Kang Qiu arrived at the Golden Rock clan's ancestral land where Ji Yufei was cultivating. Ji Yufei sat cross-legged on the boulder, motionless, while Kang Qiu's figure appeared below the boulder. Seeing that Ji Yufei was cultivating with his eyes closed, Kang Qiu was about to turn around and leave. However, at this moment, Ji Yufei suddenly opened his eyes. "What's the matter?" Ji Yufei asked. He was not cultivating in seclusion and could come out of it at any time. "Those guys from the Heavenly Fire clan are here again." Kang Qiu jumped onto the boulder and sat opposite Ji Yufei. "With your cultivation, it doesn't matter how many of them come. They're like moths flying into a flame," Ji Yufei said indifferently. He knew Kang Qiu's cultivation and combat power better. Those guys from the Heavenly Fire clan couldn't do anything to him. Unless that mysterious clan leader of the Heavenly Fire clan came personally. "It's a little troublesome that I can't use my extreme Dao power now," Kang Qiu said helplessly. "You want me to help you get rid of those guys outside?" Ji Yufei looked at Kang Qiu and said indifferently, "That would be the best." Kang Qiu smiled. Ji Yufei didn't want to do such a strenuous and unrewarding thing. He realized that he had been getting lazy recently and didn't want to move around much. "What's in it for me?" Ji Yufei said lazily. "Haha, with our friendship, what benefits do I need?" Kang Qiu laughed. "This world is very fair. If you want something, you have to pay something of equal value," Ji Yufei said. Kang Qiu went silent for a moment before saying, "The Earth Ancestor vein under the ancestral land will always be open to you. How about it?" After saying that, Kang Qiu looked at Ji Yufei. That was all he could offer. Cultivating in the Earth Ancestor vein would definitely yield twice the results with half the effort. "All right, I agree." Ji Yufei agreed after some thought. During the battle in Myriad God Ancestral City, the Sword Slave and the 106 Stone Men had suffered a great impact. Their vitality was damaged and they needed a place with abundant spiritual energy to recover. "Great," Kang Qiu laughed. With Ji Yufei taking action, those people outside could only wait for their misfortune. Since he had achieved his goal, Kang Qiu left after chatting with Ji Yufei for a while. Ji Yufei was left sitting cross-legged on the big rock. "Sword Slave." Ji Yufei thought for a moment before replying. "Master." In the next moment, a figure appeared under the boulder. This person was the Sword Slave that left Myriad God Ancestral City with Ji Yufei. "Go get rid of those annoying flies outside," Ji Yufei said. "Yes, Master." The Sword Slave accepted the order and disappeared into the void. In the next moment, a figure suddenly walked out of the void outside the chaotic Golden Rock clan's ancestral land. Then, a door appeared on the barrier formed by the guardian formation of the ancestral land. The Sword Slave took a step out and appeared outside the ancestral land in the next moment. At this time, Peng Jingtian and the Skyfire clan's Grand Elder were still fighting fiercely, blood dripping from the sky. That was the essence blood of a quasi-supremacy. Every drop of it was crystal clear and emitted a blinding divine light. To an alchemist, this essence blood was a great medicine. If an ordinary cultivator could obtain a drop of it, their cultivation would definitely improve greatly. "Why is the Sword Slave here?" Peng Shi and the Golden Rock Goddess were shocked when they sensed the Sword Slave's arrival. They knew that the Sword Slave was one of Ji Yufei's men. Could he be a helper invited by the old ancestor? There are so many flies outside. The Sword Slave glanced at the 100,000 Skyfire warriors in the sky and frowned. He couldn't use his extreme Dao power at this time. It seemed that it wouldn't be easy to get rid of these flies. After hearing the Sword Slave's words, the generals leading the 100,000 soldiers were enraged, but in the end, they suppressed their anger and didn't attack. "Peng Jingtian, step back. Let me handle this." The Sword Slave took a step forward and instantly appeared on the battlefield. An immortal sword light rushed out from his hand and pierced towards the Skyfire clan's Grand Elder. In the next moment, Peng Jingtian retreated. The sword slave and the Skyfire clan's Grand Elder fought fiercely. From time to time, extremely powerful sword lights slashed in all directions. Very quickly, the Skyfire clan's old ancestor was struck by the sword, leaving a bloody mark on his shoulder. A chilling sword chi immediately invaded his body. The Skyfire clan's Grand Elder was shocked. This sword slave's cultivation is so strong. Even Peng Jingtian couldn't help but be moved by the scene. What surprised the Skyfire clan's Grand Elder was that the sword slave had used a divine sword of extreme Tao to injure him. Very quickly, the Skyfire clan's Grand Elder felt that something was wrong. He couldn't dispel the sword chi that invaded his body. How was this possible? The Skyfire clan's Grand Elder could clearly sense that there was a peculiar sword chi fluctuation in his forearm that wanted to surge upwards. Even with his cultivation, he couldn't suppress the sword chi that invaded his arm. The Skyfire clan's Grand Elder felt his battle strength weakening. This was not a good thing for him. Preposterous. The Skyfire clan's Grand Elder was both shocked and furious. He dodged the sword slave's sword over a dozen times, but then his speed really slowed down. Because of this, he was almost cut in half by the sword slave's sword. Heaven punishing sword. The sword slave grew impatient and didn't want to play anymore. He immediately used the 9 heaven punishing swords. Chapter 35-26. The 9 heaven punishing swords was a sword technique created by the sword slave himself. It was a supreme sword principle that entered the Tao through killing. When the killing sword principle was unleashed, the entire world changed color. A murderous aura that could even make a quasi-supremacy's heart palpitate filled the world. 9 immortal sword lights pierced through Great Elder Tianhua's divine body. It was useless even if he was wearing a quasi-supremacy grade divine armor. It couldn't withstand the sword slave's sword lights at all. What? Great Elder Tianhua lowered his head and looked at the 9 bloody holes on his body in disbelief. He could feel the vitality in his body gradually being extinguished. However, with his cultivation, even the sword slave couldn't defeat him in a short period of time. Roar! Great Elder Tianhua roared into the sky. The golden crown that bound his hair exploded. His scarlet hair danced wildly and his face became extremely ferocious. His entire body seemed to be burning. Golden divine fire danced on his body. 9 Tao patterns emerged from his body and forced out the murderous energy that invaded his body. The sword slave looked at Great Elder Tianhua in surprise. The 9 bloody holes on his body were gradually healing. This guy could actually force out his murderous energy. Great Elder, at this time, the generals who commanded the Heavenly Flame battle troops stared at Great Elder Tianhua nervously. If Great Elder Tianhua was defeated, it would be impossible for them to escape unscathed. One should know that the world had changed. They couldn't use the extreme path anymore. Otherwise, the world would descend a terrifying heavenly punishment and blast those who used the extreme path into pieces. Some people in the ancestral god realm didn't believe it and ended up having their bodies and souls destroyed. Is Great Elder going to use the extreme path? He's definitely committing suicide. The generals of the Heavenly Flame battle troops were indescribably shocked. Rumble. The power emanating from Great Elder Tianhua's body grew stronger and stronger. Golden divine fire burned and shot up into the sky, burning the surrounding void to the point of incinerating it. Are you trying to kill yourself? That saves me the trouble, said the sword slave. The sword slave said. Even he didn't dare to use the power of the extreme Tao, let alone this so-called Great Elder. This fellow's cultivation was only at the peak of the quasi-Jizuan realm. If it weren't for Tianfa, he would have killed this Great Elder long ago. Why would he waste time with this guy here? It was very troublesome not to use the extreme Tao, but there was nothing he could do about it. The sword slave didn't want to die yet. Kill. At that moment, Great Elder Heavenly Fire's aura had already reached its peak. If he were to take another step forward, he would be able to activate the extreme Tao's power. However, he did not dare to do so. Of course not. Who would want to die? No one wanted to die. As long as they could live, they would never want to die. However, Great Elder Tianhua's strength was at a critical point. If he was not careful, he would exceed the limit. The consequences would naturally be very cruel. Die. The 9 bloody holes on Great Elder Tianhua's body disappeared. His combat prowess had reached its peak. With a loud bellow, he directly attacked the sword slave. Boundless golden flames erupted from Great Elder Tianhua's body, drowning the sword slave in a golden sea of flames. The void that was enveloped by the golden divine flames was silently annihilated. There were many flame-shaped Dao patterns in the divine flames. Those Dao patterns seemed to be constantly changing, sometimes turning into a flaming bird that was about to fly away. Is he a survivor of the Golden Crow? Peng Jingtian, who was watching the battle from afar, couldn't help but feel surprised. The Dao patterns in the divine flames that erupted from Great Elder Tianhua's body were truly astonishing. The Dao patterns turned into golden birds, which were somewhat similar to the Dao patterns of the Golden Rock clan. However, the Golden Rock clan didn't cultivate the divine power of fire, but the divine power of metal. Since he is a survivor of the Golden Crow, we can't let him go. Should we go and ask the great ancestor? Peng Shi asked his father. There's no need to alarm the great ancestor. Peng Jingtian shook his head. There were Dao patterns intertwining in his eyes. He was using his Dao eye to observe the battle. In the golden sea of flames, 2 figures were moving rapidly and constantly colliding. Every time they collided, the entire golden sea of flames would shake violently. The sword slave used to be a sword sovereign, and he cultivated the killing sword principle. He entered the Dao by killing. Even without using the extreme path's power, he could easily kill a peak-stage quasi-supreme expert. Clang! Sword light flashed. In the golden sea of flames, the sword slave seemed to have turned into a peerless killing sword, forcing Great Elder Tianhua to continuously retreat. Every time he slashed, Great Elder Tianhua would be sent flying. How can he be so strong? Great Elder Tianhua was inexplicably shocked. He thought that he was almost invincible. Because he couldn't use the extreme path's power, his peak-stage quasi-supreme cultivation was definitely the strongest combat strength he had today. However, at this moment, Great Elder Tianhua realized how foolish he was. Even without using the extreme path's power, these former supremes were still stronger than them. This was an indisputable fact. Haha, is this all you've got? The sword slave laughed. The power of the 9 heaven-punishing swords was absolutely terrifying in his hands. The killing power that erupted from each sword was enough to make Great Elder Tianhua suffer. Great Elder Tianhua didn't say anything. All right, then I'll send you on your way. The sword slave didn't want to play anymore. In the next moment, the sword Dao's power that erupted from his body suddenly soared. However, this surge of power didn't exceed the limit. It was also at a critical point. Swoosh! With a flash of sword light, one of Great Elder Tianhua's arms flew up, directly separated from his body. The arm that flew in the air instantly turned into ashes. Swoosh! With another flash of sword light, one of Great Elder Tianhua's legs fell from his body. There was no bloody scene of flesh and blood splattering. In the next moment, the leg also turned into ashes. Roar! Great Elder Tianhua roared madly, but in the next moment, his head flew up as well. His divine body turned into ashes, and a tattered divine armor fell from the sky. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The sword slave swung his sword, and Great Elder Tianhua's head also turned into ashes. Both his body and soul were destroyed. Everyone was dumbfounded by this scene. No one thought that Great Elder Tianhua would be defeated so quickly. That person was too powerful and terrifying. He actually killed Great Elder Tianhua so easily. The commotion caused by this battle was so great that all the experts in the Eastern continent could sense the earth-shattering aura that erupted outside the primal chaos Golden Rock Race's ancestral land. The power of the sword slave and Great Elder Tianhua shook the heaven and earth, stirring up the heaven and earth's origin energy. The powerful cultivators could naturally sense this kind of disturbance. At this time, the sword slave swung his sword again. The towering golden divine fire was immediately dispersed by the sword chi, vanishing from the world. Only one aura was left in the world, and that was the murderous aura of the sword Dao. Who is this person? The other experts in the Eastern continent didn't recognize the sword slave. One should know that the experts from the ancestral god world who were fighting for the divine treasure in Myriad Deity Ancestral City had yet to return. That person is too strong. Where did the primal chaos golden rock race find such an expert? Someone said. No one could tell where the sword slave came from. After the sword slave killed Great Elder Tianhua, he turned and walked into the primal chaos golden rock race's ancestral land. It was obvious that he wasn't going to take action anymore. All right, we'll deal with the rest of these fellows. Peng Jingtian said to his son and granddaughter behind him. Yes. Peng Shi and Goddess Golden Rock quickly replied. In the next moment, Peng Jingtian's figure disappeared from the void and reappeared above the 100,000 heavenly flame battle troops. Boom! Peng Jingtian made his move. The world shook violently. Then, a primal chaos golden rock appeared and swooped down at the battle formation below. The pounce of the chaotic golden rock, which was as large as a mountain, could be considered earth-shattering. However, just as the chaotic golden rock was about to pounce onto the battle formation, a layer of flames surged from within the formation and enveloped it. Boom! With a loud bang, the primal chaos golden rock crashed into the layer of fire that enveloped the entire battle formation. The power of a quasi-supreme erupted. In the next moment, the entire battle formation was shaken. Many of the battle soldiers in the battle formation were directly turned into a mist of blood, their bodies and souls destroyed just like that. Peng Jingtian's attack had killed hundreds of heavenly flame battle troops and injured thousands of them. Nearly half of the thousands of heavenly flame battle troops had lost their ability to fight. Of course, these thousands of heavenly flame battle troops were nothing compared to the 100,000 heavenly flame battle troops. But even so, Peng Jingtian's attack was enough to shock the generals. Great Elder Tianhua was dead, and they only wanted to retreat. Retreat! 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 Deafening roars came from the 100,000 heavenly flame battle troops. The powerful generals ordered their subordinates to retreat. The 100,000 heavenly flame battle troops did not panic. They retreated in unison. The combined power of 100,000 heavenly flame battle troops could not be underestimated. At this time, Peng Shi and the Golden Rock Goddess made their move. The three of them forced the 100,000 heavenly flame battle troops to retreat. It was a shocking scene. Even the experts from the ancestral god realm who were watching the battle from afar were dumbfounded. As the three of them made their move, the sword slave had returned to the depths of the ancestral god realm to report to Ji Yufei. Master, the sword slave bowed to Ji Yufei under the boulder. Well done. Bring your stone golems to the ancestral earth vein to cultivate, Ji Yufei said as he opened his eyes and looked at the sword slave. The sword servant was overjoyed when he heard this, and he hurriedly bowed and thanked Chen Shi. After that, he left impatiently to look for his 106 stone figures. He had wanted to enter the ancestral earth meridian to cultivate for a long time. However, this was the territory of the chaotic golden rock race. If he wanted to enter the ancestral earth meridian to cultivate, he would need the permission of the chaotic golden rock race's primogenitor, Kang Q. Chapter 35-27. The sword slave had killed Elder Tianhua and scared away the 100,000 Skyfire fighters. However, it was impossible for the 100,000 Skyfire fighters to escape unscathed. Next, it was Peng Jingtian's turn to attack. Haha, since you're here, why don't you all stay here? Peng Shi was extremely domineering. He laughed crazily and directly attacked the killing formation formed by the 100,000 Skyfire fighters. Rays of terrifying golden sword light rushed out of his body and turned into a shocking sword rainbow that fell on the battle formation formed by the 100,000 Skyfire fighters. Roar! The countless Skyfire fighters roared at the same time. Their voices shook the heavens and earth. A power that surpassed the limits of the killing formation surged out and blocked Peng Shi's sword light. Peng Shi laughed and landed on the battle formation. Kill! The 100,000 Skyfire fighters roared and stabbed their spears at Peng Shi. The power of countless Skyfire fighters instantly gathered and turned into a huge spear shadow that pierced Peng Shi's chest. No matter how many ants there are, they are still ants. Peng Shi slapped forward with his palm. Boom! Peng Shi's palm energy collided with the power of the battle formation. Peng Shi felt a huge force coming from his fist, and he couldn't help but take a few steps back. Huh! Peng Shi was shocked. This battle formation was different. The power it gathered was so strong that it could resist his power. At this time, the golden rock goddess also made her move. In the sky, a golden light suddenly appeared, and within the golden light, a golden peng could be seen. The golden rock goddess used her ultimate move. In the next moment, an overwhelming golden light fell from the sky and bombarded the layer of fire formed by the battle formation of the Skyfire fighters. The entire battle formation shook violently. Countless Tao patterns emerged and intertwined on the layer of fire, turning into Tao diagrams. The power of the 100,000 Skyfire fighters was constantly gathered by the Tao diagrams. Amidst the flames, terrifying silhouettes appeared one after another. They were generals riding on war beasts. Every war beast was extremely powerful, and the generals riding on them were even more terrifying. The war beasts and generals were not real existences. They were merely projections formed by the power of the battle formation. However, even though they were projections, they were still extremely powerful. The aura that erupted from their bodies was close to that of a sovereign realm cultivator. Of course, this was not the true divine might of the extreme Tao. Once the aura of the extreme Tao appeared, the world would send down a terrifying heavenly punishment. Even supreme beings would be destroyed in body and soul under the heavenly punishment. The 100,000 Skyfire warriors that Grand Elder Skyfire had brought with him were all elites of the Skyfire clan. The 10,000 new warriors from before could not be compared to them. A total of 10 generals emerged from the formation. Their murderous auras soared into the sky, as if 10 gods of death had appeared in the world. Boundless divine fire erupted from the bodies of the 10 great generals who were riding on battle beasts. It burned the sky to the point where even the void was distorting and being destroyed. It was incomparably terrifying. At that moment, the ball of golden light in the sky descended like a divine sun. The power of the primal golden rock was so vast that it seemed as if the sky would collapse. That was the golden rock goddess unleashing her ultimate move. The 10 generals formed by the 100,000 Skyfire warriors moved at the same time. 5 of them soared into the sky on their war beasts and attacked the golden rock goddess. As for the other 5 generals, 3 of them went for Peng Jingtian, while the other 2 went for Peng Shi. "You're looking down on me?" Peng Shi laughed. The 2 generals instantly arrived in front of him. The 2 war beasts were the first to attack, stomping their front hooves on Peng Shi. Scram! Peng Shi displayed his might. The image of a huge primal golden rock rushed out of his body. The golden rock spread its wings like 2 heavenly blades, sending the war beasts and the generals riding them flying. What? The generals couldn't help but pale at the sight of this. The battle prowess displayed by the enemy was too great. How was this possible? After sending 2 generals flying with a single move, Peng Shi looked down on the war beasts even more. Peng Jingtian, on the other hand, was engaged in a fierce battle with the 3 great generals. These 3 generals were extremely powerful, and each of them was strong enough to contend with a peak quasi-supreme expert. The 3 generals joined hands to fight against Peng Jingtian. Even a powerhouse like Peng Jingtian had to be careful and not be careless. At this time, the 5 generals simultaneously attacked the golden rock goddess, who was falling from the sky. Boom! Towering divine flames shot up like 100,000 volcanoes erupting at the same time. The 5 fire elemental powers converged into one and instantly collided with the golden light. Rumble! The entire sky exploded, and golden divine light exploded, illuminating the entire world in a golden color. The power of the metal element shook the heavens and the earth. This was the golden rock goddess' current cultivation and battle prowess. After a period of seclusion, her cultivation and battle prowess had reached the quasi-supreme level. Of course, it was impossible for a quasi-supreme to fight against 5 fire elemental generals alone. The golden rock goddess was wearing a treasure of the Chaos Golden Rock clan, the Chaos Golden Rock armor. With the protection of this divine artifact, The Golden Rock Goddess was able to fight against the 5 generals alone. When the metal element divine power and fire element divine power clashed, the Golden Rock Goddess was sent flying into the sky. Her golden hair fluttered and her body was surrounded by golden radiance. A shadow of a golden rock could be vaguely seen on her body. The 5 generals were also pushed back by the Golden Rock Goddess. In the battle formation below, the 10 generals coughed up blood at the same time. They had suffered a great impact. The 10 generals condensed by the power of the battle formation actually had a close connection with the 10 real generals in the battle formation. Their auras were connected, and they were the 10 battle souls condensed by the essence, chi, and spirit of the 10 generals in the battle formation. The fire elemental battle soul's battle prowess was enhanced by the power of the battle formation, and it was enough to fight against quasi-supreme existences. Kill. In the battle formation, the 10 generals roared at the same time. At the same time, the 10 fire elemental battle souls also roared and attacked Peng Jingtian and his grandson. In particular, the 5 fire elemental battle souls wanted to kill the Golden Rock Goddess, the weakest of the 3 Chaos Golden Rocks. However, they had kicked an iron plate. The Golden Rock Goddess, who was wearing the chaotic Golden Rock battle armor, displayed a battle prowess that was absolutely heaven-defying. Streaks of golden Tao patterns circled around her, turning into small golden birds. The Golden Rock Goddess was like an empress among the birds, displaying the demeanor of an empress. There was nothing much to say. The Skyfire clan and the Chaos Golden Rock clan had become mortal enemies, and the other party had come to kill them again and again. The 10 fire elemental battle souls were fighting against the 3 experts of the Chaos Golden Rock clan. For a moment, no one could really suppress the other. The sky was dark, and the earth was dark. This level of battle strength was infinitely close to the extreme grade realm, but no one dared to take half a step forward. Once they crossed the line, their bodies and souls would be destroyed. Just as Peng Jingtian and the others were fighting against the 10 fire elemental battle souls, the clansmen of the Chaos Golden Rock clan were watching the battle anxiously in the ancestral land of the Chaos Golden Rock clan. However, the place where Ji Yufei cultivated was very calm. In Ji Yufei's opinion, the great elder of the Skyfire clan was killed by the sword slave. He knew the strength of the sword slave, and the great elder of the Skyfire clan was no match for the sword slave. Is it still not done? Ji Yufei sat cross-legged on a big rock. He was a little surprised. Even the great elder of the Skyfire clan was killed by the sword slave. Why hadn't Peng Jingtian and the others dealt with the people outside? In the next moment, Ji Yufei's divine sense enveloped the entire ancestral land of the Chaos Golden Rock clan and the area outside. When he sensed the battle outside the ancestral land of the Chaos Golden Rock clan, he was a little shocked. These 100,000 heavenly flame battle troops were definitely the elites of the Skyfire clan. Only a battle formation formed by soldiers that had gone through hundreds of battles could have such great power. These 100,000 heavenly flame battle troops were definitely existences that had survived hundreds of battles. Every single one of them exuded a strong killing intent. As expected of one of the 3 superpowers of the central continent. Their foundation is indeed terrifying. Ji Yufei couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. The killing formation formed by 100,000 heavenly flame battle troops was really powerful. If it wasn't for the changes in the world, this killing formation might have displayed the power of the extreme Tao realm. He had a certain understanding of the Tao of array formations. Although he wasn't an array formation grandmaster, he wasn't far from it. The profundity of this killing formation wasn't difficult to understand. It could perfectly integrate the power of 100,000 heavenly flame battle troops. It wasn't as simple as 1 + 1. This battle formation could increase the power of the 100,000 heavenly flame battle troops. It was no wonder that these 100,000 heavenly flame battle troops were able to fight a peak quasi-supreme existence endlessly and retreat unscathed. This kind of battle formation could be used as a reference. Ji Yufei wanted to create an invincible warrior, because in the upcoming chaotic world, having a warrior that could fight for him would save him a lot of trouble. It should be noted that Ji Yufei wouldn't do everything by himself. Otherwise, why would he have established so many forces? Jiyu Fei carefully observed the battle formation with his divine sense. Although the battle formation was very complicated, he first memorized the formation patterns and various changes of this killing formation. He would study it when he had free time in the future. At this time, all the people that Jiyu Fei had brought with him entered the Earth Ancestor vein to cultivate, including the Four Supremes. Jiyu Fei thought for a moment and then summoned a blurry figure from his inner world. It was a demonic figure with an ape vaguely visible in the void amidst the demonic aura. This ape was none other than the Chaos Demon Ape whose body had been destroyed. Greetings, Master. The Chaos Demonic Ape was only left with a spirit. He was originally cultivating in Jiyu Fei's inner world, but he was suddenly summoned by Jiyu Fei. The depths of the earth are where the Earth Ancestor vein converges. It's the source of the entire East Continent's Earth vein. You should go and have a look. Perhaps you'll find some unexpected gains, Jiyu Fei said indifferently as he looked at the Chaos Demonic Ape spirit. Yes, Master. Thank you, Master. The Chaos Demonic Ape spirit was overjoyed. It turned into a beam of demonic light and shot into the sky, disappearing into the depths of the Ancestors' land in an instant. Chapter 35-28. Ancestral God Realm, East Continent. Outside the ancestral land of the chaotic Golden Rock clan, Peng Jingtian and his grandson fought with all their might, forcing the 10 Heavenly Fire fighting souls to retreat. The 10 generals in the Heavenly Fire battle formation were also under great impact, coughing up blood. Although the battle formation of 100,000 Heavenly Fire fighting souls was operating at full strength, it was still not enough. Peng Jingtian and his grandson's battle strength was too heaven-defying. Especially Peng Jingtian, he used a power that was infinitely close to the extreme grade realm to shake the entire Heavenly Fire battle formation. However, just as the Heavenly Fire battle formation was about to collapse, a figure descended from the sky and landed in the battle formation. An extremely powerful force of Heavenly Fire erupted from the figure and strengthened the Heavenly Fire battle formation. In the next moment, the entire Heavenly Fire battle formation, which was on the verge of collapse, gradually stabilized. Boom! With a loud bang, Peng Jingtian took out a divine weapon. It was a huge seal, called the Golden Rock Seal. The huge seal directly bombarded the battle formation of 100,000 Heavenly Fire fighting souls. Rumble! The entire battle formation started to shake again. Countless runes appeared and blocked the huge seal. Seeing this, Peng Jingtian could not help but be shocked. It seemed that the person who entered the battle formation was very strong. Otherwise, how could he have stabilized the Heavenly Fire battle formation so quickly? In the next moment, endless divine fire gathered, and an even more powerful fiery fighting soul appeared in the battle formation. Terrifying waves of fiery elemental power erupted from the fiery fighting soul. Peng Jingtian was shocked to see this. This fiery fighting soul was far more powerful than the 10 fiery fighting souls. Roar! The fiery fighting soul roared and rushed out of the battle formation. It directly rushed toward Peng Jingtian and appeared in front of him in an instant. What? Peng Jingtian did not have time to think. A chaotic golden rock shadow rushed out of his body and collided with the fire-type fighting soul that was rushing towards him. Boom! With a loud bang, 2 forces that were infinitely close to the extreme Dao level instantly erupted. The image of the chaotic golden rock that rushed out of Peng Jingtian's body disappeared into the void, and the golden Dao patterns dissipated. The fire-fighting soul was also pushed back by Peng Jingtian's strength. All right. An old voice came from the formation of 100,000 Skyfire battle soldiers. At this time, the 100,000 Skyfire battle soldiers were gradually retreating into the distance. You want to leave? Peng Jingtian, Peng Jingtian, Peng Jingtian, and Peng Jingtian did not agree. The 3 of them attacked with all their might, trying to destroy the fire-based fighting soul. However, the fighting soul's combat strength was so strong that it could fight with the 3 of them. At this time, the other 10 fire element fighting souls also wanted to attack, but they did not. Because they knew that if they rashly went forward to help without that person's permission, it would instead cause that person to be unhappy, and that wouldn't be good. At this time, Peng Jingtian and the others joined hands to fight against the illusory figure. For a while, No one could really suppress the other, and no one could break the stalemate. The clan leader of the Skyfire tribe has come in person. At this moment, a man opened up the Chaos Golden Rock Race's defensive array and walked out of it. Ancestor? When they saw this person, Peng Jingtian and the others were shocked, because this person was their ancestor, the ancestor of the chaotic Golden Rock tribe. Kang Q, this killing formation is not bad. Kang Q said as he walked forward. Why, are you going to fight? An old voice came from the opposite battle formation. Since you are here, how can I not fight? Kang Q said indifferently. Then let's play. Kang Q said, and then he took a step forward and instantly landed in the sky above the Skyfire battle formation. He came to the opposite side of the fire-based fighting soul and sized it up. Kill. The fighting soul roared angrily and stabbed its spear towards Kang Q. Kang Q just waved his hand, and the spear in the hand of the fighting soul was directly shattered by the impact and disappeared in the hands of the fighting soul. Kang Q quickly found that the spear of the fire-based fighting soul had once again appeared in his hand. Without any hesitation, Kang Q directly used his ultimate move. Countless sword lights burst out from his body and pierced through the fighting soul in an overwhelming manner. In the next moment, there was a continuous series of collision sounds. In that instant, the figure did not know how many sword lights had been slashed, but all the sword lights were blocked by a layer of flame. Good fella. Kang Q's figure disappeared in an instant. When he reappeared, he was already behind the fire-based fighting soul, and then he slapped it with his palm. The fire-based fighting soul was not weak. The moment it sensed Kang Q's position, it immediately leaped into the air and dodged the attack of the fire-based fighting soul. In the next moment, Kang Q directly attacked the fire-based fighting soul. Like a huge mountain, it pressed down on the fire-based fighting soul below. The powerful energy waves shook the earth, and it was extremely terrifying. Bam! With a muffled sound, the fire-based fighting soul directly fell from the sky. Boom! With a loud sound, it hit the ground and created a huge pit. Dust flew everywhere, and a cloud of smoke spread out in all directions. All right, let's end this. Kang Q's voice reverberated in the air. Then, a chaotic golden rock directly swooped down from the sky and tore the fire-based fighting soul that had just climbed out of the pit into pieces. In the heavenly fire battle formation, an old man opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His expression also became weary, as if he had suddenly aged 10 years. Ha! The old man in the battle formation laughed bitterly. Although his fire-based fighting soul had been destroyed by Kang Q's chaotic golden rock and he had suffered a great impact, his cultivation was still extremely strong. You have been beaten silly by me. How can you still laugh at this time? The huge chaotic golden rock disappeared, and Kang Q's figure appeared again. Kang Q, the next time we meet, I will not rest until one of us is dead. The old man in the heavenly fire battle formation stared viciously at Kang Q outside the formation. Haha, do you think you can still leave? Kang Q laughed. This guy is still thinking of fighting me next time. This guy won't have a next time. I can't let him leave with 100,000 heavenly fire battle soldiers. In the next moment, the entire heavenly fire battle formation shook violently. Then, the void around the battle formation collapsed, and the entire battle formation rushed into the chaos. Damn it! Kang Q was shocked and angry at the sight. He never expected that guy to escape into the chaos with 100,000 heavenly fire battle soldiers. It was known that it was difficult to survive in the chaos. Once lost in the chaos, even a powerful quasi-supreme would be trapped and die. Kang Q didn't chase into the chaos because he knew that even if he did, he wouldn't be able to stop that guy and the 100,000 heavenly fire battle soldiers. A great battle that shocked the entire East continent had finally come to an end. At this moment, everyone was in disbelief. The Chaos Golden Rock clan only sent out 4 people, but Kang Q and the others managed to drive away 100,000 elites of the Heavenly Fire clan with just the 4 of them. The Heavenly Fire clan has suffered a great loss again. Someone sighed. Serves them right for invading the East continent again and again. Someone disagreed. To the native forces of the East continent, the Heavenly Fire clan was an invader that wanted to conquer the entire East continent. However, This behavior was too crazy. Of course, if it wasn't for Gu Fei, the entire East Continent would have been conquered by the army of the Heavenly Fire Clan. Sigh. Kang Q stood in the void and looked at the shattered void in front of him. He was displeased, but there was nothing he could do. At this time, the entire East Continent was still under the control of the Chaos Golden Rock Clan. No one dared to challenge their position as the overlord. The other continents might have already been conquered by the Heavenly Fire Clan or the Pang Clan. Both the Pang Clan and the Heavenly Fire Clan wanted to unify the entire ancestral god realm, so they naturally had to get rid of everyone who opposed them. Being merciful to one's enemy was being cruel to oneself. This was an unchanging truth throughout the ages. After Kang Q drove away 100,000 Heavenly Fire warriors, the entire East Continent gradually calmed down. However, although it seemed peaceful on the surface, there were many undercurrents surging in the dark. Some forces of the East Continent still hadn't made up their minds to attach themselves to Gu Fei. Gu Fei naturally wouldn't beg this fellow to attach himself to him. He had his own principles, and it wasn't something that could be easily changed. At this time, the experts of the ancestral god realm who went to the graveyard of myriad gods began to return. What happened in the graveyard of myriad gods spread like wildfire, shocking everyone. No one expected that the myriad gods' ancestral city, which had disappeared for countless years, would appear in the depths of the graveyard of myriad gods. However, countless experts of the ancestral god realm couldn't find the legendary number 1 divine weapon of the ancestral god realm, the myriad gods' ancestral sword. No one knew where the myriad gods' ancestral sword was, and even more so, no one knew who had obtained it. Those who knew that the myriad gods' ancestral sword was taken by Gu Fei wouldn't easily spread the news, and the East Pole Old Man wouldn't spread it either. But this time, the number of experts from the ancestral god realm that perished in the graveyard of myriad gods was not small, and there were even quasi-supreme beings that perished inside. This caused the great sects and clans to suffer heavy losses, and their vitality was greatly damaged. Even the experts of the Heavenly Fire Clan and the Pang Clan had fallen inside. However, the two superpowers wouldn't suffer great losses even if they lost one or two quasi-supremes. Chapter 35-29. An unknown variable occurred in the myriad god graveyard. Figures of undying existences began to appear in the 5 continents of the ancestral god realm. As the figures that had fallen for countless years reappeared in the 5 great continents of the ancestral god realm, many people were shocked. One must know that these existences that could be buried in the graveyard of myriad gods were once peerless experts of the ancestral god realm. Even though these existences had fallen for countless years, there were still people in the ancestral god realm who remembered their names. Divine King Li Bai. Someone saw a divine king who had fallen 10,000 years ago appear in a ruin in the western continent. That used to be the ancestral land of the Li clan, but now it had become a ruin. The Li clan, where Li Bai was from, used to be the most powerful cultivation clan in the western continent. However, 10,000 years ago, this clan disappeared overnight. No one knew where they went. The Li clan's ancestral land became a place where experts from all over fought. Even some old antiques took action. In the final battle, someone even used the power of the extreme Tao. As a result, the Li clan's ancestral land was destroyed and turned into a wasteland. Even the veins deep underground were destroyed. But now, 10,000 years later, the supposedly dead divine King Li Bai had reappeared. How could people not be shocked? It wasn't just Li Bai. In the ancestral god realm's northern continent, someone encountered divine Lord Yi Zhunbei in a destroyed mountain range. Yi Zhunbei was an ambitious and ruthless person 5,000 years ago. He started from scratch and established the divine palace of the northern continent with his own strength. The entire northern continent was his world. However, Yi Zhunbei mysteriously disappeared. Some people said that he entered the myriad god graveyard and never came out again. Following his disappearance, the northern continent immediately fell into chaos. The divine palace of the northern continent was also divided into several major factions. No one was willing to submit to the other, so they all started their own businesses. The divine palace of the northern continent then became a thing of the past. Yi Zhunbei had 4 godly monarchs under him. These 4 godly monarchs each established their own forces. 2 of the godly monarchs' forces gradually declined and were swallowed by the other 2 forces. The current northern continent had already been split into 2 camps. These 2 camps were established by the 2 god kings under Yi Zhenbei. Some people said that the 2 god kings were still alive, but they had not been involved in the affairs of the world for many years. But now, all the signs indicated that the divine master of the northern divine manor, Yi Zhenbei, who had disappeared for 5,000 years, had actually returned. This caused a huge uproar in the entire northern continent, especially the upper echelons of the 2 great forces in the northern continent. They were even more restless, afraid that Yi Zhenbei would come knocking on their door. Compared to the western continent and the northern continent, the southern continent was much more peaceful. As for the eastern continent, ancient beings who had disappeared for tens of thousands of years had reappeared. All of them pulsed with an aura of death that couldn't be concealed. Wherever they went, life force was severed, vegetation withered, and the life force in the area was plundered. The ancestral land of the chaotic golden rock race was relatively peaceful. After all, they had just fought with the heavenly fire race. Who would dare to provoke the chaotic golden rock race at this time? However, on a dark and windy night, a figure silently appeared outside the ancestral land of the chaotic golden rock race. The moment the figure appeared, the flowers, grass, and trees around it withered instantly. All the life force in the surroundings was plundered by this figure. A black gas shrouded the blurry figure like a ghost. Within the black gas, 2 spots of bloodlight could be vaguely seen. Who's outside? Suddenly, a loud roar came from the ancestral land of the Chaos Golden Rock race. Then, a figure walked out from the ancestral land of the Chaos Golden Rock race. It was a middle-aged man who hadn't left the range of the ancestral land's protective formation. The mysterious figure disappeared into the void without a sound, as if it had never appeared in the first place. What's going on? The middle-aged man was bewildered. He seemed to have sensed that something was spying on them from outside the ancestral land. However, when he approached, he didn't see anything, nor did he sense any strange aura. The middle-aged man pondered for a moment, then turned around and left. The entire ancestral land of the chaotic golden rock race was enveloped by the protective formation. Who could enter the ancestral land without a sound? It was impossible. There were experts of the chaotic golden rock race patrolling the periphery of the ancestral land. Although the east continent seemed calm on the surface, there were treacherous waves in the dark. The Earth Spirit clan, one of the 4 great clans of the east continent, had already submitted to the chaotic golden rock race, but the other 2 clans were still observing. Those fellows from the deity race and the mysterious snake race were extremely shrewd. They wouldn't easily submit to anyone or any power unless they had no other choice. Less than an hour after the mysterious figure outside the ancestral land of the chaotic golden rock race disappeared, countless black formation patterns appeared in the sky above the ancestral land of the chaotic golden rock race without any warning. These formation patterns interweaved rapidly and soon enveloped half the sky, enveloping the entire ancestral land of the chaotic golden rock race. What's going on? In the depths of the ancestral land of the chaotic golden rock race, Jiyu Fei, who was sitting cross-legged on a large rock, suddenly opened his eyes and looked up. He was shocked to find that the stars that filled the sky had disappeared. Swoosh! 2 rays of primal chaos light rushed out of Jiyu Fei's eyes. His gaze pierced through the protective formation of the chaotic golden rock race and saw the shocking scene in the sky. A huge formation, a black formation, had enveloped the entire ancestral land of the chaotic golden rock race. This shocked Jiyu Fei. The person who had set up such a super formation in such a short time was really powerful. The person who did this was most likely a formation master. Jiyu Fei also knew a formation master. That person was He Tian. Jiyu Fei knew how powerful a formation master was. The person who set up such a killing formation was definitely not He Tian. He Tian couldn't be in the ancestral god realm. Soon, Jiyu Fei found out who the owner of the killing formation was. He saw a figure descend from the sky and land on the killing formation. He immediately sat cross-legged in the eye of the formation. Jiyu Fei could feel the heart-palpitating aura of death coming from that person. Could it be a dead spirit from the graveyard of 10,000 gods? Jiu Fei muttered to himself. At this moment, a figure walked over from afar and stopped under the large rock where Jiu Fei was sitting. This person was the chaotic golden rock race's primogenitor, Kang Q. What's going on? Jiu Fei glanced at Kang Q under the big rock and said indifferently. Kang Q jumped onto the boulder and sat cross-legged opposite Jiu Fei. Maybe that person has returned. Chapter 35:30. A killing formation suddenly appeared high up in the sky and enveloped the entire protective formation protecting the ancestors' land. Perhaps because of the protective formation, Kang Q was the only one in the Golden Rock ancestral grounds who knew what was happening in the sky. Rumble. At this moment, an extremely powerful aura of death descended from the sky. At this moment, the entire ancestral land of the chaotic Golden Rock race began to boil. This is, when everyone discovered the mysterious figure high up in the sky, they were all indescribably shocked. A layer of black light appeared between the heavens and the earth, enveloping the entire chaotic Golden Rock race's ancestral land and its protective formation. An incomparably powerful aura of death erupted from the mysterious figure sitting cross-legged in the eye of the killing formation. What happened? In the primal chaos Golden Rock race's ancestral land, the alarmed people all cried out in alarm. At this time, Peng Jingtian appeared. He directly flew up to the sky, opened the Guardian formation, and rushed out. Just as he rushed out, a strong figure came from afar and directly faced Peng Jingtian. It was a dead spirit, covered in death aura. Roar! The dead spirit roared and pounced at Peng Jingtian. Scram! Peng Jingtian roared and kicked out, sending the dead spirit flying. Just as Peng Jingtian kicked one of the undead spirits away, more undead spirits appeared from all directions. The surrounding void was filled with an aura of death that made one's heart palpitate. Whoosh! Peng Jingtian opened his mouth and spat out a Dao tool. It was a small bronze bell. When he shook the bell, a transparent ripple spread out from the bell. The dead spirits that were pouncing at Peng Jingtian were immediately blown away by the sound wave. One of them even exploded in the air. Fog began to rise from all directions. It was a kind of black fog. Clearly, this was a transformation of this super-killing formation. Wherever the deathly fog shrouded, all life would be completely cut off. Peng Jingtian was shocked to see this. He quickly retreated, not wanting to let the death aura get close to him. Clang! As the melodious bell rang out, the invisible killing power of the sound spread out. The dead spirits hidden in the mist immediately suffered a great impact. Peng Shi and the Golden Rock Goddess walked out of the ancestral grounds and stood behind Peng Jingtian. Father, what's going on? Peng Shi carefully looked at the churning deathly mist around him and said, I don't know. Be careful, I have a bad feeling about this. Peng Jingtian suddenly looked up into the sky. At this moment, streaks of black light descended from the sky and fell directly on the ancestral land's protective formation below. The next moment, a series of roars sounded. Beams of black light bombarded the layer of divine light formed by the protective formation of the ancestral land. The entire divine light shield shook violently. Golden Dao patterns appeared and intertwined on the divine light shield, forming a mysterious array diagram. The power of the two great formations finally clashed. At this moment, in the depths of the ancestral grounds of the Golden Rock race, Kang Q, who was sitting across from Jiu Fei, suddenly stood up. He took a step forward and disappeared from the rock. The next time he appeared, he was already in the protective formation of the ancestral land's protective formation. Without any hesitation, Kang Q took control of the entire protective formation. The next moment, an endless amount of golden rock power erupted. A shocking scene appeared. On the protective formation of the ancestral land of the Golden Rock race, an endless amount of chaotic golden rock power condensed crazily. Many golden birds appeared in the formation and soared into the sky, setting off a monstrous golden radiance that dispersed the deathly aura descending from the sky. Boom! A golden bird collided with the death formation and exploded immediately. An extremely powerful chaotic golden rock's power erupted. This power was so strong that it shook the protective formation of death. Then, countless golden birds crashed into the killing formation in the sky. The endless deathly aura was dispersed, and the black formation runes vibrated continuously. The unimaginably powerful chaotic golden rock power shook the black protective formation of death. Within the protective formation of death, the runes were constantly disappearing. However, although the runes of the protective formation of death were disappearing, the runes reappeared in the next moment. Kang Q used the power of the protective formation to launch an extremely shocking attack, but it could not break through the seal of the protective formation of death. Where is Kang Q? Come out and die. In the ancestral land of the Golden Rock Race, countless people of the Golden Rock Race stared at the scene in the sky in shock. Suddenly, a voice came from the sky. Is it really him? When Kang Q heard this voice, he could not help but be taken aback. His expression turned ugly. Who's behaving atrociously? Peng Jingtian was furious when he heard this voice. A cold laugh came from the sky. Then, a pitch-black hand came from the sky and slapped down on Peng Jingtian. Rumble, the black hand was even larger than a mountain. The space below the hand was shaking violently, and a heart-palpitating wave of death energy spread out from the hand. Die! Peng Jingtian roared. His white hair danced wildly in the wind. He glared angrily and slapped up with all his might. A dazzling golden light exploded from his palm. This was the power of the chaotic golden rock. In the golden light, a golden hand shot up to the sky. Boom! With a loud bang, the two hands collided. The next moment, the golden hand that Peng Jingtian had sent out shattered in the void. The black hand smashed down on Peng Jingtian with ease. Damn it! Peng Jingtian wanted to dodge, but the power of death that descended from the sky locked the space around him. Boom! With a loud bang, Peng Jingtian was slapped down from the sky by the black hand. Father! Grandfather! Peng Shi and the Golden Rock Goddess were shocked to see this. Clang! At this moment, a sword chime rang out, and an immortal sword light slashed out from the side, directly destroying the black hand. The black hand dissipated, and a large bronze bell appeared before everyone's eyes. The bell was covered in cracks. Chapter 35-31. The black hand slammed Peng Jingtian down from the sky. If Peng Jingtian did not have the bronze bell to protect himself, he would have been smashed into a bloody mist. At that moment, the bronze bell shattered and Peng Jingtian walked out from within. Exchanging a Dao item for his life was definitely worth it. Peng Jingtian would do the same thing even if he had to do it all over again. Even if the Dao item was gone, he could still refine it and get a better one. However, if he died, everything would be over. Who are you? At that moment, Kang Q soared into the sky and stared at the mysterious black figure through the ancestral ground's protective array. Don't you know who I am? Ha ha. A wave of divine will spread out from the black figure and a voice rang in Kang Q's mind. This black figure was not the mysterious person's real body. The mysterious person's real body was in the black killing array. This figure was a phantom formed by the death chi. Kang Q's face turned gloomy. What do you want? Kang Q stared at the black figure and said in a deep voice. I want to kill you. The black figure said. The divine sense fluctuations from the black silhouette's body were not specifically aimed at Kang Q. The other cultivators could sense the divine sense fluctuations as well. Seeing that, the Chaos Golden Rocks within the Chaos Golden Rocks ancestral grounds grew inexplicably shocked. How could that guy say something like that? Someone was shocked and angry. Kang Q is in trouble. Jiu Fei, who was sitting on a boulder in the depths of the chaotic Golden Rock Race's ancestral ground, muttered to himself. The being in the sky was extremely powerful and could definitely fight against Kang Q. Most importantly, the ancestral god realm had changed and could no longer use the power of the extreme Dao. This way, Kang Q would not have any advantage. The other party might have been an extreme Dao supremacy like him, but had fallen from the extreme Dao realm. Jiu Fei did not plan to attack. You want to kill me? Ha ha. At that moment, Kang Q burst into laughter. This guy actually wanted to kill him. What a joke. In the past, this guy was just a follower of his. Kill. The black shadow disappeared, and a shocking killing intent surged out from the killing array that was formed from interweaving black runes. Heaven and earth immediately changed color. Rumble, the entire killing formation came crashing down from the sky, and an extremely terrifying power rippled out from within the killing formation. Very well, then let's see who will destroy who, Kang Q said while clenching his teeth. Then, the protective formation of the entire ancestral ground was activated. A terrifying wave of energy exploded from his body. With just a thought, Kang Q activated the protective array's power. Swoosh! He directly passed through the layer of divine light formed by the power of the protective formation and directly killed his way into the super-killing formation that was suppressing him. Countless black runes were continuously collapsing. In the next moment, the power of the chaotic golden rock erupted from Kang Q's body. A golden rock that was even larger than a mountain appeared in the killing formation that was filled with a surging deathly aura. The boundless deathly aura was dispelled, and the chaotic golden rock slammed into the killing array. Boom! With a loud bang, the entire killing formation shook. Everyone was stupefied when they saw this scene. This Kang Q is too ferocious. He actually collided head-on with the killing formation and even shook it. Haha, good, Kang Q is indeed the same Kang Q from back then. In the eye of the killing formation, the mysterious being said loudly. This time, it was not a wave of consciousness, but the mysterious being who was talking to Kang Q. Boom. With another loud bang, the chaotic golden rock that Kang Q had transformed into crashed into the killing formation again. The terrifying power of the chaotic golden rock spread out, dispelling the boundless deathly aura. This was a power that was infinitely close to the extreme grade. Even someone as powerful as Kang Q did not dare to use the power of the extreme grade. Even if he could not use the power of the extreme grade, Kang Q was definitely much stronger than the average quasi-supremes. This was without a doubt. After all, he was once an extreme grade supreme. At this moment, a black bird suddenly dashed out of the black killing formation, and an endless amount of deathly aura exploded from the black bird. Boom! The golden rock and the black bird crashed into each other, and an intense battle ensued. That is, how is this possible? In the sky above the Chaos Golden Rock Race's ancestral land, Peng Jingtian was shocked. He stared at the black bird fighting with his ancestor in disbelief. Father, what's wrong? Peng Shi, who was standing next to Peng Jingtian, quickly asked. He had never seen his father like this. His father seemed to be afraid of the black bird. How is this possible? The golden crow ancestor turned into a dead spirit. Peng Jingtian's voice was trembling. What? Peng Shi and the Golden Rock Goddess were shocked to hear Peng Jingtian's words. That black bird was the Golden Crow ancestor? How did the Golden Crow ancestor turn into this? Did the Golden Crow ancestor fall in the graveyard of deities, turn into a dead spirit, and come back? The Golden Crow ancestor stabbed Kang Q in the back when Kang Q was fighting in the chaotic demonic world. Not only did he hide in the chaotic Golden Rock Race's ancestral ground, but he also exterminated the chaotic Golden Rock Race. Kang Q and the Golden Crow ancestor had a deep grudge against each other. It was only natural for them to be enraged when they met. The battle between the Golden Rock and the Golden Crow was an evenly matched battle because the Golden Crow ancestor's cultivation level was not weaker than anyone else's. He was also a former ultimate god. These two good brothers of the past were now engaged in a fierce battle between a dragon and a tiger. Those who knew about the Golden Crow ancestor's background could not help but sigh. Boom! Bam! As the two powerhouses battled, the blackbird also activated the power of the killing array. An extremely tyrannical power erupted from its body. Clang! The blackbird flapped its wings and made a sound like a divine sword being unsheathed. The blackbird's wings turned into two black lights and directly slashed at the chaotic golden rock. The two black lights were like the ultimate weapons of death as they broke through the chaotic golden rock's power. A layer of golden light appeared on the chaotic golden rock's body when it was about to hit the chaotic golden rock. The two heavenly blade-like black lights could not break through the protective divine light on Kang Q's body. At the same time, countless sword lights rushed out of the chaotic golden rock's body and pierced through the blackbird's body. Clang! The sword lights hit the blackbird's body but could not break through its defense. However, the blackbird was inexplicably shocked as it was shrouded by the endless sword lights. Countless cultivators could see the battle between the two great birds high in the sky. These two lunatics. Someone said something like that. At that moment, all the chaotic Golden Rock clansmen in the chaotic Golden Rock clan's ancestral land were nervously staring at the two figures in the sky. If Kang Q won, then nothing would happen to him. However, if the Golden Crow were to win, wouldn't the chaotic Golden Rock tribe be hunted down by the Golden Crow tribe? At this moment, even Jiu Fei was paying close attention to this battle. The commotion caused by Kang Q and the Blackbird was too great. Soon, the Black Snake clan's people appeared in the distant sky and watched the battle carefully. An expert from the deity race also arrived nearby. The old ancestors of the Earth Spirit clan had also arrived. Although they had pledged allegiance to the Chaos Golden Rock clan and received the protection of the Chaos Golden Rock clan, the old ancestors of the Earth Spirit clan might not necessarily listen to Kang Q's orders. In fact, the Earth Spirit race's true allegiance was to Jiu Fei. If it was not for Jiu Fei overseeing the chaotic Golden Rock clan's ancestral land, the ancestors of the Earth Spirit race would not have dared to attack Kang Q. Has Kang Q gone mad? The second ancestor of the Earth Spirit race said. How would I know? The third ancestor of the Earth Spirit race said expressionlessly. At that moment, even some of the old antiques were alarmed. There were incomparably powerful figures in the distance. It was obvious that these fellows were watching. Kang Q, do you need help? At that moment, two figures walked out of the chaotic Golden Rock clan's ancestral land. They were two stone men. They were the demonic Yin Spider and the Dragon-Head Demon. Whether it was the Great Yin Demon Spider or the Dragon-Head Demon, they were both extremely powerful. No need, I can handle it myself, Kang Q said hurriedly. He was afraid that these two fellows would attack him. It would not be good if he was accused of colluding with the demons. Oh, all right then. The daoist of the demonic Yin Spider shrugged and said indifferently. They were sent out by their master as soon as they came out of the ancestral earth vein. They were somewhat displeased. They had only come out for a breather before returning to the depths of the ancestral earth vein to cultivate. Since Kang Q did not need their help, they were happy to watch the show from the side. The fellow fighting Kang Q did not seem to be weak. The aura of death on his body made their hearts palpitate. Swoosh. The black bird kept flapping its wings, which were like two heavenly blades, creating pitch-black spatial rifts in the void between heaven and earth. However, the chaotic golden rock that Kang Q had transformed into was not weak either. It kept clashing with the black bird. The killing formation in the sky showed signs of collapsing as the two forces collided with each other. All right. Peng Jingtian and the others watched the scene nervously. They knew that their ancestor could not be defeated. Kang Q is quite capable. Although Jiu Fei did not leave the chaotic Golden Rock clan's ancestral land, his divine consciousness had enveloped this part of the world. He could clearly sense everything that was happening outside. He was surprised that the blackbird was actually a golden crow. After all, the golden crow was a carnate divine bird born from the sun. It was impossible for it to look like that. Chapter 35-32. Ancestral God Realm, Eastern Continent. In the skies above the primal chaos Golden Rock race's ancestral land, a resplendent golden divine bird was engaged in a fierce battle with a black bird that exuded boundless death energy. This was an incredibly shocking scene. It was a battle between the divine bird and the bird of death. The entire sky was enveloped by golden light and black chi, and the two powers continuously clashed. In the ancestral land of the Chaos Golden Rock race, all the clansmen of the Chaos Golden Rock race were staring nervously at the two figures fighting in the sky. If Kang Q lost, the Chaos Golden Rock race wouldn't be annihilated because of Jiu Fei. However, Kang Q was the primogenitor of the Chaos Golden Rock race. If he lost, the entire race would lose. This would be a huge blow to the Chaos Golden Rock race. The overlord of the East Continent would become a joke. The Golden Crow ancestor, who had turned into a dead spirit, wanted to see the Golden Rock clan become a joke. That was why he wanted to fight Kang Q. This was the Golden Crow ancestor's goal. The return of the Golden Crow ancestor changed the situation of the entire Eastern Continent. At this moment, balls of divine fire appeared in the distant sky. Within each ball of divine fire, there was a firebird faintly visible. Powerful fire path divine power surged out. That is, inside the Golden Rock clan's ancestral land's defensive formation, Peng Jingtian was both shocked and angry at the sight of those firebirds. It seemed that the Golden Crow clan's ancestral land had been planned from the start. Are they the remnants of the Gold Crows? Peng Shi stared at the dozen or so divine flames in the sky, and an incomparably powerful battle intent immediately erupted from his body. The Golden Crow clan had practically exterminated the Chaos Golden Rock clan in the ancestral god realm, and they were a great enemy of the Chaos Golden Rock clan. The Chaos Golden Rock clan and the Golden Crow clan had reached a point where they would not rest until one of them was dead. "Grandfather, please open the ancestral formation," Golden Rock Goddess said with a solemn expression. "What?" Peng Jingtian was taken aback. "Open the ancestral array? What do you want?" The great ancestor was fighting the Golden Crow progenitor with his life on the outside, so it was safest for them to stay within the ancestral formation. Once they left the ancestral formation, they would be in danger of being attacked by the remaining Golden Crows. No one knew what other trump cards Golden Crow had up his sleeve. "Go and kill the remaining Golden Crows," Golden Rock Goddess said in a deep voice. "No," said Peng Jingtian. His granddaughter was being too impulsive. How could the Golden Crow tribe be killed so easily? The Golden Rock Goddess did not say anything else. The remnants of the Golden Crow clan still dare to show up. At this moment, the Daoist transformed from the Great Yin Demon Spider suddenly said coldly, "They're just some small shrimps. What's there to worry about?" The Dragon Head Demon said disapprovingly. He didn't take the dozen Golden Crow experts in the sky seriously at all. "Then how about you go and get rid of these small fries?" The Daoist transformed from the Great Yin Demon Spider glanced at the Dragon Head Demon and said coldly, "Ever since the Chaos Demon Ape's physical body was destroyed by someone and only his primordial spirit escaped, the Great Yin Demon Spider was the leader of the Chaos Three Demons." However, the Dragon Head Demon had never been convinced by the Great Yin Demon Spider. "Humph. Do you think I'm stupid?" The Dragon Head Demon naturally wouldn't fall for the Great Yin Demon Spider's trick. "TSK, you want to be the boss? Just think about it." How could the Great Yin Demon Spider not know what the Dragon Head Demon was thinking? The Dragon Head Demon Spider had never been convinced that the Dragon Head Demon was superior to him. He, what goes around comes around. Who knows who will be the boss in the future? The Dragon Head Demon smiled with a gloomy face. Rumble. At this moment, a series of roars came from the sky. The entire sky was shaking as if the world was about to explode. The Great Yin Demon Spider didn't speak anymore because the battle in the sky was about to end. "Kang Q, die." High up in the sky, an angry roar came from the endless deathly aura. Then, the terrifying killing formation shrank rapidly and rushed into the blackbird's body. In the next moment, the blackbird and the killing formation merged perfectly. The blackbird's power and speed suddenly soared. It appeared in front of the chaotic golden rock in an instant and its black wings slashed the chaotic golden rock's body. The chaotic golden rock that Kang Q had transformed into was sent flying. Ancestor. Seeing this, the chaotic golden rock clansmen were all stunned. "You traitor, you want to kill me? Do you have the ability to do so?" Kang Q's voice was heard. He didn't seem to be heavily injured. The chaotic golden rock's body trembled, and countless golden feathers immediately flew up. They turned into a peerless sword light and pierced through the black bird in an overwhelming manner. This was an extreme sword technique created by the chaotic golden rock ancestor Kang Q. It was called the Golden Rock Sword Technique. Although it wasn't as powerful as the 9 heaven punishing swords, it was still extremely powerful. However, Kang Q couldn't use extreme power. He had to control it carefully. Otherwise, if he triggered the heavenly punishment, he would die under the heavenly punishment before the other party could do anything. Kang Q wouldn't make such a low-level mistake. "Kill." The black bird didn't say anything else. It flapped its wings and rushed forward. Countless sword lights that pierced through the sky shattered. Boom. Another muffled sound rang out, and Kang Q was sent flying again. Golden divine feathers floated down from the sky. Good lord. Kang Q was shocked. After the golden crow fused with the killing formation, its combat strength increased by a lot. However, it didn't break through to the extreme grade. This was shocking. One should know that the golden crow had already broken through to the extreme grade. However, the golden crow ancestor didn't take that step. But Kang Q couldn't. Because if he continued to increase his strength, he would touch the bottom line of this world and trigger the heavenly punishment. How is this possible? Kang Q couldn't believe it. Nothing is impossible. The black bird appeared in front of Kang Q again. Without any suspense, Kang Q was sent flying again. This time, he didn't just lose feathers. He spat out a mouthful of blood. This, in the ancestral land of the chaotic Golden Rock clan, Peng Jingtian and the others panicked. If this continued, the ancestor would lose for sure. Father, should we ask Ji Yufei for help? Peng Shi asked anxiously. In his opinion, only Ji Yufei could defeat the Golden Crow ancestor. This, Peng Jingtian hesitated. Grandpa, what are you hesitating for? The Golden Rock goddess said. If they didn't ask Ji Yufei for help now, would they have to wait until the ancestor was killed by that guy before asking for Ji Yufei's help? Alright, ask Ji Yufei for help. Chapter 35-33. Kang Q was out of luck. After the Golden Crow merged with the killing array, its combat power had increased by a large margin. Now, the Golden Crow was suppressing Kang Q. Absolute power was enough to overwhelm everything. This saying was unmistakable. At this moment, the Golden Crow ancestor's power was definitely much greater than Kang Q's. He kept blasting Kang Q away. Haha, Kang Q, you're still alive? In the sky, the Golden Crows were very excited. Their master was going to defeat Kang Q. It was only a matter of time. Recently, the Golden Crows had been fleeing like stray dogs, while the chaotic Golden Rock clan had been chasing after the Golden Crows. The warriors of the Golden Crow clan who had survived until now were all powerful warriors, and none of them were weak. The dozen or so divine flames appeared at the same time, and the combined power was earth-shattering. While Kang Q was being suppressed by the Golden Crow's ancestor, Peng Jingtian had already arrived at the valley where Ji Yufei was cultivating. He went directly to the boulder. Why are you here? Ji Yufei did not open his eyes. He only said this indifferently. Given the strength of his spiritual force, it did not matter if he did not use his eyes in many cases. The ancestor is in danger. Please help, Daoist Ji Yufei. Peng Jingtian stated his intention. He did not need to beat around the bush in front of Ji Yufei. Oh! Ji Yufei opened his eyes and looked at Peng Jingtian, who was standing under the boulder. Kang Q's failure was within Ji Yufei's expectations. He knew that the black bird had something up its sleeves. However, he did not expect it to be the human array unification. The human array unification could greatly increase a cultivator's combat power. This way, the balance between Kang Q and the blackbird was broken. Sigh. Ji Yufei sighed before standing up from the boulder. He tidied up his clothes, took a step forward, and instantly disappeared from the boulder. This Peng Jingtian, who was standing under the boulder, was shocked by Ji Yufei. In the next moment, Ji Yufei appeared high up in the sky and walked out of the ancestral formation. He was as terrifying as a peerless ancestor of war. Kill. The blackbird charged over again. This time, its target wasn't Kang Q, but Ji Yufei, who had suddenly appeared. I think you should just surrender. Ji Yufei glanced at the blackbird and said. Ha ha, surrender? Golden Crow laughed out loud, as if he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. Since that's the case, let me invite you to leave. After saying that, Ji Yufei did not say anything else. He directly stretched out his hand and grabbed at the blackbird. His palm rapidly grew in size and actually enveloped a part of the world. Rumble, heaven and earth shook, and pitch-black spatial cracks appeared in the void. The blackbird had nowhere to run, all of its escape routes had been sealed. How dare you? Golden Crow ancestor was both shocked and angry. He had no choice but to take on this attack from Ji Yufei. Once he retreated, Ji Yufei could still kill him. Boom! With a loud bang, the two forces collided. The blackbird that the Golden Crow ancestor had transformed into was sent flying by Ji Yufei. But soon, The Golden Crow ancestor rushed back. Swoosh! Golden Crow ancestor suddenly spread his wings. Then, spiritual tattoos rushed out from his wings, turning into deadly demonic lights that pierced towards Jiu Fei. Fut! Jiu Fei did not care about these things at all. He directly rushed forward, and all the black lights that pierced towards him were shattered by the power that burst out from his body. Bang! Jiu Fei instantly arrived in front of the black bird and punched right at the Golden Crow ancestor's abdomen. A muffled sound was heard. Roar! Golden Crow ancestor shrieked in pain and was flung away. Jiu Fei's punch was not weak. To be able to take it, it was enough to show how powerful the Golden Crow ancestor was. This, Jiu Fei easily blew away the Golden Crow progenitor's black bird. This shocked all the cultivators who witnessed this scene. They found it hard to believe. This meant that Jiu Fei's combat ability was above the Golden Crow ancestor's. How did you do that? Golden Crow ancestor was shocked to the extreme. This person's strength was clearly comparable to the extreme path strength, but he did not attract the heavenly punishment. It seemed that this guy named Jiu Fei had also obtained some secret technique that could increase his combat ability. Thinking of this, Golden Crow ancestor's eyes brightened. Don't kill him, he's mine. At this moment, Kang Q rushed back and continued to attack the black bird that was transformed from the Golden Crow ancestor. A strong power exploded, shaking the sky and earth. The Golden Crow ancestor turned into a black bird and flew towards Kang Q, who was attacking. Without any suspense, Kang Q was flung away again. However, he struggled to stand up and rushed back, even though he was coughing up blood. Seeing that Kang Q was no match for him, Jiu Fei did not make a move. With him watching from the side, it would be difficult for Kang Q to die even if he wanted to. After Kang Q was flung away again, he spat out his extreme path sword. Once the extreme path sword was in his hand, he immediately felt energized. Buzz! His sword vibrated, and beams of sword light rushed out of his sword, landing on the Golden Crow ancestor's body. Clanging noises were heard, and the Golden Crow ancestor's body was shaken off by the sword light. What, seeing that the extreme path sword in his hand could not break through the Golden Crow ancestor's feather defense, Kang Q never expected this. At this moment, the Golden Crow ancestor used his extreme path divine weapon. The extreme path divine weapon could be used, but it could not be activated to unleash extreme power. Even if it was an extreme path divine weapon, as long as the power unleashed by the extreme path divine weapon exceeded the limit, God's punishment would still descend. Even the person who activated the extreme path divine weapon would suffer. Kang Q and the Golden Crow ancestor carefully controlled their respective extreme path divine weapons. The two experts fought intensely again, but very quickly, the Golden Crow ancestor blasted Kang Q away again. Do you need help? Jiu Fei crossed his arms in front of his chest as he watched the two experts fighting with interest. No need. Kang Q rejected immediately. He wanted to fight with his own strength and kill his enemies. Only those who walked out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood could walk further on the path of martial arts and become an unparalleled expert. All right then, Jiu Fei smiled and shook his head, continuing to watch the battle. Chapter 35-34. The chaotic Golden Rock ancestor, Kang Q, was no match for the Golden Crow ancestor. Peng Jingtian quickly went to find Jiu Fei. However, although Jiu Fei and Peng Jingtian were here, Kang Q didn't need Jiu Fei's help. Therefore, Jiu Fei was happy to watch the show. Boom! Golden Crow ancestor's blackbird wings were like blades of death, slashing on Kang Q's body and sending him flying. The power of death was overwhelming. The entire sky was shrouded by the air of death. Endless vitality was cut off. Vitality gathered from all directions and was devoured by the air of death. Roar! Kang Q roared. Blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. Every drop of blood was shining brightly like stars, dispelling the air of death around him. Die! Kang Q almost went crazy. He charged back from afar and pounced towards the Golden Crow ancestor fiercely. The divine sword in his hand turned into 9 beams of sword light and pierced towards the Golden Crow ancestor. The power of the golden rock in each ray of sword light had reached its limit. It couldn't be increased anymore. If it did, it would trigger a divine punishment. Kang Q could not bear the consequences of triggering the heavenly punishment. Break. The Golden Crow ancestor transformed into his human form. With a loud shout, an extremely powerful formation energy gushed out from his body. Countless formation runes interweaved in the air, causing the space to twist. The 9 streaks of immortal sword light were immediately repelled by the power of the formation. Kang Q's shock was no small matter. How did this guy become so strong? Rumble. The formation energy exploded from the Golden Crow ancestor and swept across the entire sky. Not only was the space distorted, but a powerful devouring power also devoured Kang Q. Kang Q felt the world was spinning, as if he entered another world. What? Kang Q was taken aback. He realized that he had already dedicated himself to the absolute array. His surroundings were filled with array runes. These were black array runes, and every array rune emitted a heart-palpitating aura of death. Even though he used the power of the Great Tao, Kang Q found it hard to see through the boundless formation runes. He was trapped in a supreme killing formation. Break. Naturally, Kang Q wouldn't sit still and wait for death. He directly slashed forward with his sword, wanting to break the killing formation. However, the sword light rushed forward. Although it broke through layers of the formation, it still dissipated in the void in the end. It couldn't really break the killing formation. Kang Q, die. The voice of the Golden Crow ancestor resounded in the surroundings. Then, countless runes began to burn, emitting terrifying flames of death. The entire killing array turned into a furnace in an instant. The black fire of death immediately burned towards Kang Q from all directions. Wherever the fire of way passed, even the void was silently annihilated. Roar. Kang Q roared furiously. A ball of divine fire spread from his body and enveloped him. The black fire that was about to burn his body was immediately blocked. At this moment, Kang Q was like a golden elixir in a furnace of death, being continuously burned by the flames of death. Damn it! Kang Q was both shocked and furious. Back then, he and the Golden Crow ancestor were sworn brothers. It could be said that the Golden Crow ancestor grew up under his protection. The Golden Crow ancestor actually stabbed him in the back when he was fighting in the chaotic demon realm, almost killing all of his descendants. Now, the Golden Crow ancestor wanted to refine him into ashes as well. This almost drove Kang Q crazy. Golden Crow, I won't rest until you die. Kang Q roared madly, and his face became extremely hideous. Is that so? Do you have the ability to do so? Haha. The Golden Crow ancestor's voice came from all directions. It was erratic, and even someone as powerful as Kang Q couldn't sense its exact location. Roar. Kang Q was furious, but there was nothing he could do now. He couldn't use the power of the Extreme Path, and he couldn't truly activate the true power of the Extreme Path divine sword in his hand. This made him very sullen. After all, if he could use the power of the Extreme Path, he could directly break this killing formation and rush out. But it was different now. The world had changed, and the power of the Extreme Path was suppressed. The divine punishment transformation was extremely terrifying, and it could wipe out all power of the Extreme Path. No one would use the Extreme Path power at this moment. Therefore, those who possessed the Extreme Path power chose to hide instead of doing something extremely dangerous like the Golden Crow ancestor and Kang Q Rumble. The Extreme Path level killing formation was running wildly, and it kept weakening Kang Q's divine power. At this moment, Kang Q could only defend passively. He finally knew why the Golden Crow ancestor dared to come to him alone. The power of the unity of man and formation was so powerful. It was definitely not as simple as 1 + 1. Haha, the ancestor is here. Kang Q is dead for sure. In the sky, the dozen or so golden crows were both surprised and overjoyed to see this. If the ancestor could kill Kang Q, they would have a chance to take back the #1 ancestral ground of the East continent. It won't be that simple. Someone said this because Jiu Fei was still watching the show from the side. Jiu Fei was the biggest variable in this battle. Once he took action, it was very likely that he would change the outcome of this battle. Do you need help? If not, I'm leaving. Just then, Jiu Fei's voice rang in Kang Q's mind. Kang Q didn't speak. He used to be an extreme path supreme being, and the ancestor of the chaotic Golden Rock clan. Naturally, he had his pride and wouldn't ask for help easily. Sigh. It's not that I don't want to help, it's that you don't want my help. Then I have no choice. I'm leaving. Ji Yufei shrugged and turned to leave. Don't. Seeing that Ji Yufei was about to leave, Peng Jingtian became anxious. If Ji Yufei didn't help, then the ancestor would be in danger. It's not that I don't want to help, it's that he doesn't want my help. I have no choice. Ji Yufei spread his hands and said, Fellow Daoist Ji Yu, please save my clan's ancestor. Peng Jingtian hurriedly said. He couldn't let anything happen to Kang Q. The chaotic Golden Rock race was rising, and if Kang Q was killed by the Golden Crow ancestor, the chaotic Golden Rock race would never be able to rise again. To the entire chaotic Golden Rock clan, Kang Q was very important. Unless he begs me. Otherwise, there's no need to talk. Ji Yufei was somewhat displeased. This Kang Q was simply too stubborn. He valued his face so much that he could even throw away his life and not ask for anyone's help. Chapter 35-35. As long as there's life, there's hope. Ji Yufei didn't view fame as important as Kang Q. To him, staying alive was the most important thing. Kang Q's stubbornness annoyed him. This fella used to be an extreme grade sovereign, so why couldn't he see through fame and fortune? Ji Yufei didn't understand. Therefore, if Kang Q didn't beg him to save him, Ji Yufei wouldn't help. Ji Yufei wanted to teach Kang Q a lesson so that he would know whether he wanted his own reputation or his life. This, Peng Jingtian and Peng Shi panicked when they saw that Ji Yufei wasn't going to save Kang Q. Only Ji Yufei could save Kang Q right now. If he didn't help, no one else could. In the entire Golden Rock tribe, Peng Jingtian's cultivation was the strongest after Kang Q. Peng Jingtian definitely didn't have the ability to save Kang Q from the killing formation. Right now, the entire Golden Rock tribe was hoping that Ji Yufei would save their ancestor. However, Ji Yufei did not make a move. As a result, all the members of the Golden Rock tribe were as anxious as ants on a hot pan, unable to sit still. Fellow Daoist Ji Yu, why don't you save my ancestor first? Could it be that you really intend to watch him die? Peng Jingtian quickly said. Chumph, say whatever you want. Ji Yufei crossed his arms in front of his chest and said nonchalantly. This, Peng Jingtian didn't know what to say and was sweating profusely. At this moment, the Golden Crow ancestor tried his best to turn Kang Q into ashes so that he wouldn't need Ji Yufei to save Kang Q. The Golden Crow ancestor was wary of Ji Yufei. This fella's cultivation and battle prowess were not bad. He was a formidable opponent that ordinary cultivators couldn't compare to. Rumble, in the killing formation, an endless amount of death energy exploded and rushed towards Kang Q, who was in the middle of the formation, from all directions. In the next moment, the entire killing formation was shaking. While Kang Q was shocked, he had no choice but to activate the divine power in his body to fight against the annihilating power of death. He was struggling to hold on, and his divine power was constantly being consumed. This made him feel a little powerless. Kang Q understood his situation very well. If he didn't ask for Ji Yufei's help, then he would still be refined into ashes by the Golden Crow ancestor in the end. Both his body and soul would be destroyed. Why are you doing this to me? Kang Q said while clenching his teeth. He couldn't understand why the Golden Crow ancestor would stab him in the back. If it wasn't for his protection, the Golden Crow ancestor would have died a long time ago. How could the Golden Crow ancestor exist today? The Golden Crow ancestor repaid kindness with enmity, causing Kang Q to be enraged. Why? You really don't know? If you don't die, how can I have the chance to make a name for myself? The Golden Crow ancestor said coldly. You just want to stand up for yourself? Kang Q said in disbelief. He never thought that this was the reason why the Golden Crow ancestor stabbed him. He just wanted to stand up for himself. That's right. I want to become an existence even more powerful than you. I want to stand high above everyone else and be worshipped by everyone. The Golden Crow ancestor said. Kang Q was speechless. Didn't he also value his reputation more than his life? At that moment, Kang Q was filled with emotions. Is reputation really that important? Kang Q muttered to himself. Of course it is. The Golden Crow ancestor said in an incomparably firm tone. Kang Q didn't say anything else and attacked the formation like a madman. The formation shook violently and countless black Dao patterns were dissipating. However, no matter how Kang Q attacked, he couldn't break the formation. Save me. Kang Q transmitted his voice to Ji Yufei directly. What did you say? Ji Yufei's voice rang in Kang Q's mind again. I beg you to save me. Kang Q uttered these 4 words with great difficulty. Ha ha, Ji Yufei laughed out loud. At this moment, Kang Q didn't say anything else. Swish. At this moment, Ji Yufei suddenly disappeared from the void. When he reappeared, he was in the middle of the killing formation. He actually barged into the killing formation as if there was no one there, and arrived next to Kang Q. Even Kang Q was extremely shocked when he saw Ji Yufei suddenly appear by his side, and he really wanted to know how Ji Yufei did it. Ji Yufei, must you do it? The Golden Crow ancestor's voice was extremely cold. Why, can't I? Ji Yufei said in disdain. Very well, then I shall turn the both of you into ashes. The Golden Crow ancestor said coldly. Haha, do you have the ability to do so? Hearing this, Ji Yufei burst into laughter. Kill. The Golden Crow ancestor roared in anger. Countless formation patterns interweaved into Dao diagrams. Those Dao diagrams directly triggered the strongest energy and charged towards Ji Yufei and Kang Q. Ji Yufei sneered and moved immediately. Like a phantom, he punched towards the destructive energy. Boom! With a loud bang, the energy of death clashed against Ji Yufei's primordial chaos energy. In the next moment, the energy of death collapsed, unable to withstand the primordial chaos energy. On the death formation patterns were disappearing continuously. The primordial chaos energy was definitely the nemesis of the energy of death and could restrain the power of the killing formation. The Golden Crow ancestor was shocked to see countless formation runes disappearing. He hurriedly tried to fix the killing formation, but the other party wouldn't give him any chance. Eat my fist. Ji Yufei roared and punched again. The primordial chaos energy exploded from his fist and was as violent as a flash flood. The void in front of Ji Yufei's fist collapsed and was destroyed in the next moment. The boundless energy of death was dispersed and a figure fell out from the darkness. It was the Golden Crow ancestor. The Golden Crow ancestor didn't expect Ji Yufei to be so powerful. He definitely wasn't a match for this guy named Ji Yufei. In order to attack the Chaos Golden Rock Race's ancestral land, the Golden Crow ancestor had investigated beforehand. For example, the number of the Chaos Golden Rock Race and the other experts in the ancestral land were all within the Golden Crow ancestor's expectations. However, he didn't expect Ji Yufei's cultivation to have risen to such a level. Even if he became one with the formation, he still wouldn't be a match for Ji Yufei. Without any suspense, Ji Yufei broke the Golden Crow ancestor's killing formation with just a few punches. Then, he rushed out with Kang Q. Chapter 35-36. Kang Q was trapped in the Golden Crow ancestor's killing formation. In the end, he still asked Ji Yufei for help. Kang Q felt relaxed after putting down his pride. At the instant he sought help from Ji Yufei, he'd already seen through fame and fortune, and he wasn't restrained by these useless things any longer. This caused his comprehension of the Grand Tao to deepen by a level. There were strong and weak ones among the supreme experts. Although Kang Q was once a supreme expert, he had fallen from that level. However, this did not hinder his understanding of the Great Path. He had to thank Ji Yufei. If it wasn't for Ji Yufei refusing to save him, he would still view fame and wealth as more important than his life. With such concerns and restraints, it would be extremely difficult for Kang Q to improve his understanding of the Great Path. It was almost impossible. Die! Kang Q roared and charged towards the Golden Crow ancestor. His speed and strength had increased by quite a bit. In a flash, he had already appeared before the Golden Crow ancestor. Bam! Kang Q's fist landed on the Golden Crow ancestor's chest. In the next second, the sound of bones breaking could be heard. Roar! The Golden Crow ancestor roared in anger and was sent flying backward. That punch was way too powerful. He lowered his head and saw a fist mark on his chest that went deep into his body. The aura of death that he gathered was almost dispersed by the punch. Seeing how fierce Kang-Q was, Jiyu Fei stopped attacking. Of course, a powerful expert like the Golden Crow ancestor was also a good opponent for Jiyu Fei. However, Jiyu Fei wanted to leave the Golden Crow ancestor to Kang-Q. With Jiyu Fei's eyesight, he had naturally noticed the change in Kang-Q. This guy seemed to have changed. Although the change was small, Jiyu Fei still sensed it. Boom. In the next second, a towering aura of death erupted from the Golden Crow ancestor. The entire world was instantly enveloped by the aura of death. The world fell into darkness and one could barely see their fingers. A terrifying aura of death filled every inch of the void between heaven and earth. This guy is going all out. An old voice came from the distance. The great ancestor of the East Pole had appeared in the sky at some point and was watching the battle. Everyone who saw this scene was incomparably shocked. At this moment, Kang-Q's body erupted with an extremely powerful wave of energy, blocking the boundless deathly aura. Buzz! A sword chime rang out, and a ball of sword wave spread out from Kang-Q's divine sword of extreme Tao. It instantly enveloped the heaven and earth, enveloping him. This kind of sword wave was very powerful. The void that was enveloped by the sword wave was directly destroyed, leaving nothing behind. The endless death chi was dispelled and destroyed. Stars began to appear in the sky. The power of the stars shone down from the sky and entered the Golden Crow ancestor's body. Jiyu Fei couldn't help but be visibly moved when he saw this scene. This fellow actually cultivates the Star Grand Tao, and it truly puzzled him. With the support of the stars, the Golden Crow primogenitor's essence chi recovered quite a bit. This shocked Kang-Q. This guy was not to be trifled with. Kill. Although Kang-Q was shocked, he still controlled the sword wave to obliterate the Golden Crow primogenitor. The terrifying power of the sword spread out, and the void was constantly being destroyed. Rumble, at this moment, huge stars appeared in the void around the Golden Crow primogenitor. It was as if an extremely ancient starry sky had appeared around him. As the Golden Crow primogenitor waved his hand, the stars immediately smashed towards Kang-Q. Every star erupted with unimaginable power of the stars. The power of the stars had already changed. It was filled with the aura of death. Those were the stars of death, and they shook Kang-Q's sword wave. Boom! 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 A series of loud explosions rang out, causing the entire mountain range to tremble. The stars that were smashing towards Kang-Q directly exploded, forming a super destructive force. Kang-Q's sword wave finally couldn't hold on anymore. Countless cracks appeared on the sword wave, as if it would collapse at the next moment. Kang-Q was inexplicably shocked. You're not the only one who knows how to fight with his life on the line. I can too. Kang-Q roared angrily, and he constantly activated the power in his body. The sword light that spread out from the divine sword in his hand became stronger and stronger. You don't have a chance anymore, the Golden Crow primogenitor said in disdain. Then, he pounced towards Kang-Q from the sky, and violent power exploded from the Golden Crow primogenitor. It was as if the entire starry sky was being obliterated by the Golden Crow primogenitor. The void kept exploding, and the stars kept collapsing and reforming in a cycle. Can't handle it. Jiyu Fei, who was watching from the side, transmitted his voice to the chaotic Golden Rock primogenitor. Kang-Q can't handle it. Kang-Q shook his head and said helplessly. Although he didn't want to ask Jiyu Fei for help, he had no choice but to ask Jiyu Fei for help at this moment. But I want to give it a try, Kang-Q said, and then he attacked with all his might. The two super experts moved rapidly in the void. Dull clashing sounds were heard continuously. Divine power and death power were clashing. Kang-Q and the first ancestor of the Golden Crow fought with their lives on the line. Both of them wanted to crush their opponent into pieces, but their cultivation base and combat power were about the same. It was not an easy task to determine a winner. Golden and black blood kept dripping from the void, especially Kang-Q's essence blood. Every drop was like a golden star. The golden crow primogenitor's blood, on the other hand, was a strange black color. When the black blood dripped onto the ground, it actually corroded the ground into small pits and uneven paths. It was unknown how many moves the two super experts had exchanged. Half an hour passed, and suddenly, with a boom, the two figures instantly separated. Boom! The ground shook, and the two figures clashed again. The two forces displayed extreme power, but the world had changed, and they couldn't use extreme power anymore. The two super experts fought fiercely. Feathers and blood kept falling from the sky. Kang Q let go of his fame and wealth. At this moment, he had no more restraints, and the combat power he displayed was absolutely shocking. This gave him the ability to fight against the Golden Crow primogenitor. Jiu Fei didn't make another move. At this moment, he sensed many experts nearby. Without asking, he knew that these people wanted to fish in troubled waters. Catcher! At this moment, the sound of bones breaking resounded. Kang Q was blown away by the Golden Crow primogenitor's punch, and the sound of his bones breaking could be heard. However, the moment the Golden Crow primogenitor's punch landed on Kang Q's right leg swept horizontally like a whip, fiercely lashing on the Golden Crow primogenitor's waist. The Golden Crow primogenitor was also blown away, falling to the side. Kang Q's silhouette flashed. He wouldn't give the Golden Crow primogenitor any chance to catch his breath. He didn't care about his injuries and appeared in front of the Golden Crow primogenitor. Boom! Boom! Two loud noises were heard almost at the same time. Two silhouettes were blown away again. The extremely powerful shockwaves turned into a storm that swept out in all directions. Even Jiu Fei couldn't help but retreat dozens of feet. The two experts stood in the air, facing each other, no longer fighting. This was a battle where both sides were injured. Kang Q's body was covered in blood, and his clothes were tattered. There wasn't a single place on his body that wasn't injured. Compared to Kang Q, the Golden Crow primogenitor's injuries weren't light either. His body was covered in bruises, and even his nose was injured by Kang Q's punch. The Golden Crow primogenitor couldn't believe it. How long had it been? This guy could already fight against him, and he wasn't at a disadvantage. If he was given more time, wouldn't he be no match for this guy? Both sides are injured. Jiu Fei mumbled to himself. If these two continued to fight, there would only be one ending, both sides would be injured. Kang Q and the Golden Crow primogenitor understood this as well. However, they couldn't back down now. They wanted to stop, but neither wanted to stop first. Rumble, the space between Kang Q and the Golden Crow primogenitor trembled continuously, producing an earth-shattering sound. Dark cracks appeared in the air. Although these two were facing each other, the two invisible forces were already competing against each other. These two fellows can still continue fighting? Someone said. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that this battle would end in a lose-lose situation. No one was willing to risk their lives to do anything unless they had no other choice. Enough, you two. Stop now, Jiu Fei said. He didn't want to kill the Golden Crow primogenitor. One should know that the Golden Crow primogenitor was Kang Q's enemy, not his. Since he was Kang Q's enemy, he should leave the Golden Crow primogenitor to Kang Q and tell him to stop first. The Golden Crow primogenitor stared at Kang Q and said coldly, "What did you say?" Kang Q was enraged. "Are you deaf? Didn't you hear what I said?" The Golden Crow primogenitor said coldly, "Stop first, I don't trust you." Kang Q said. He didn't dare to trust the Golden Crow primogenitor anymore. As the saying goes, learn from your mistakes. He didn't want the Golden Crow primogenitor to stab him in the back again. "I don't trust you either," the Golden Crow primogenitor said. "It's a little troublesome for me to kill you, but I can still do it." Jiu Fei suddenly looked at the Golden Crow primogenitor and said with a solemn expression. His intention was clear. If the Golden Crow primogenitor didn't do it, then he couldn't be blamed. The Golden Crow primogenitor's expression changed several times. But in the end, he still chose to retreat carefully. Kang Q didn't attack while the Golden Crow primogenitor was retreating. Although he wasn't a good person, he wouldn't go back on his words. Chapter 35-37. In the end, Jiu Fei didn't attack the Golden Crow first ancestor again and allowed him to leave. The chaotic Golden Rock race was displeased. After all, the Golden Crow first ancestor had almost wiped out their race. He was their greatest enemy. However, Kang-Q didn't say anything because the Golden Crow first ancestor was his. Jiu Fei was already being a good friend by not fighting with him. As the battle ended, the spectating experts began to retreat. Since there was no more show to watch, they naturally had to leave. Why would they stay here and watch? Jiu Fei and the others returned to the chaotic Golden Rock Race's ancestral land. Meanwhile, the Great Yin Demon Spider and the Dragon-Head Demon followed Jiu Fei back to the chaotic Golden Rock Race's ancestral land. The two were secretly competing with each other. Although Jiu Fei knew about it, he didn't say anything. Jiu Fei continued to cultivate in the depths of the ancestors' land while the Great Yin Demon Spider and the Dragon-Head Demon returned to the ancestors' vein to cultivate. At this time, several powerful figures stood in the depths of the ancestors' vein. The situation in the eastern continent had clearly changed. On the third day after the battle between Kang-Q and the Golden Crow progenitor, the Golden Crow progenitor returned in a domineering manner. Some of the factions that had been watching from the sidelines actually sided with the Golden Crow clan. Even the Black Snake clan and the Heavenly God clan sided with the Golden Crow clan. As a result, the eastern continent was in a stalemate between the two forces. Kang-Q almost went crazy when he heard the news. The Black Snake race and the Heavenly God race deserved to die for siding with the Golden Crow race. The grudge between the chaotic Golden Rock race and the Golden Crow race had already spread across the entire eastern continent and even the entire ancestral god realm. Since the Black Snake race and the Heavenly God race sided with the Golden Crow race, they were the chaotic Golden Rock race's mortal enemies. The atmosphere in the eastern continent became extremely tense. It was as if a storm was brewing. An even greater storm was about to engulf the entire eastern continent. The Golden Crow race reappeared in the world because of the Golden Crow first ancestors' return. However, the Golden Crow race had suffered a great loss. Even the Golden Crow first ancestors' return couldn't change this fact. However, the Golden Crow first ancestor was able to make the Black Snake clan and the Heavenly God clan submit to him. This was enough to prove that the Golden Crow first ancestor wasn't simple. At this time, Kang-Q started to gather people in the Chaos Golden Rock tribe's ancestral land. The 4 ancestors of the Earth Spirit clan arrived at the ancestral land at the same time. Not only did the Earth Spirit clan's 4 primogenitors arrive in person, but they also brought with them almost all of the Earth Spirit clan's strength. In an instant, the Chaos Golden Rock clan's strength increased greatly. Is this the final battle? In the depths of the ancestral grounds of the chaotic Golden Peng clan, Kang-Q sat on a throne within a divine hall that hovered high in the sky. The 4 ancestors of the land spirit sat on the seats beside him. Kang-Q didn't say anything, but he nodded. The Golden Crow ancestor had been making a series of moves these past few days. It was obvious that he wanted to fight to the death with him. Since that was the case, then he would fight him to determine the victor. Half a day ago, Kang-Q had actually gone to look for Jiu Fei. If Jiu Fei was willing to help, it would not be as difficult as he had imagined to destroy the Golden Crow clan. However, Jiu Fei would not do it easily. Kang-Q was helpless too. One should know that Jiu Fei was not someone that he could control. The first thing the 4 progenitors did when they arrived was to pay their respects to Jiu Fei. More accurately speaking, Jiu Fei was their master, not Kang-Q. If that's the case, let's fight. Who's afraid of who? The 3rd ancestor of the land spirit said indifferently. That's right. With our strength, we can easily destroy the entire East continent. The 4th ancestor of the land spirit said. They knew how powerful Jiu Fei was. The Golden Crow ancestor and the others dared to fight against the Chaos Golden Rock clan. They must be courting death. The problem is whether that person is willing to help. The 2nd ancestor of the land spirit said solemnly. The Golden Crow clan used to be the strongest clan in the East continent. However, they were almost destroyed by Jiu Fei and Kang-Q. The Golden Crow clan did not learn their lesson and they still dared to provoke Jiu Fei. The hall quieted down and no one said a word. At this moment, in the ancestral land of the celestial god clan, a figure exuding a deathly aura was sitting on a mountain peak, absorbing the worldly essence around him. As the worldly essence gathered from all directions and was absorbed by the figure, the deathly aura exuding from the figure grew stronger. The celestial god clan lord watched this scene helplessly from a mountain peak far away. The golden crow ancestor was too domineering. He directly occupied the ancestral land of the celestial god clan. At this moment, the golden crow ancestor was also gathering experts. The experts of the Black Snake clan arrived outside the ancestral land of the celestial god clan. They did not dare to disturb the golden crow ancestor. The experts of the celestial god clan and the Black Snake clan gathered outside the ancestral land, waiting for the golden crow ancestor to come out. However, the wait lasted for 3 days. Rumble, just as the experts of the celestial god clan and the Black Snake clan were getting impatient, the sound of wind and thunder came from the ancestral land of the celestial god clan. The experts gathered outside the ancestral land of the celestial god clan were indescribably shocked. Then, a terrifying deathly aura surged out of the ancestral land, devouring all vitality. The entire ancestral land of the celestial god clan was nearly destroyed. The boundless worldly essence was directly plundered by the golden crow ancestor. The celestial god clan lord was almost driven mad. This fellow was truly too vile. If the ancestral land was destroyed, it would be difficult for the celestial god clan to continue passing down their legacy. The ancestral land was the foundation of the celestial god clan. If the foundation was destroyed, the celestial god clan would soon be finished. At this moment, the celestial god clan lord somewhat regretted relying on the golden crow ancestor. The golden crow ancestor was no longer the golden crow ancestor of the past. The current golden crow ancestor had already become a dead spirit, so he had no qualms about doing things. The Black Snake clan lord rejoiced because the golden crow ancestor didn't devour worldly essence in their ancestral land. At this time, in the graveyard of the gods above the 9 heavens, an army was also gathering. The leader of this army was an elder of the Golden Crow clan. This elder of the Golden Crow clan was the last elder of the clan. The elder stood on a high slope, and in front of him was a dense mass of dead spirits. There were several extremely powerful death auras erupting from these dead spirits. The Golden Crow ancestor had actually established such a force in the graveyard of the gods. This was something that no one could have imagined. This was the Golden Crow clan's trump card. They wouldn't use it easily. The Golden Crow ancestor was actively preparing for war, and so was Kang Q. A war that would engulf the entire East continent was about to erupt. This was already unavoidable. No one knew who would unify the entire East continent and become the true ruler of the East continent. At this time, the major continents of the ancestral god realm weren't very peaceful either. However, the commotion in the East continent was too great, attracting the attention of countless cultivators. In the depths of the Heavenly Fire clan's ancestral land in the central continent, an incomparably tyrannical aura was emitted from a palace floating in a sea of flames. It was as if an extremely terrifying fire elemental being was sleeping in the palace. The Golden Crow ancestor has returned. Interesting. An old voice came from the depths of the Heavenly Fire clan's ancestral land. An extremely tyrannical figure was faintly discernible in a fire cave. In the Pang clan's ancestral land, the Pang clan's patriarch had also gathered the higher-ups of the clan for a discussion. The topic of their discussion was the situation of the East continent. The Pang clan's patriarch sat on a high throne and glanced at the higher-ups of the Pang clan who were sitting on both sides. Patriarch, this is really a golden opportunity. When the chaotic Golden Rock clan and the Golden Crow clan are mutually wounded, we can seize the opportunity to attack and defeat them in one fell swoop. This way, the territory of the East continent will belong to us. The person who spoke was a young man who was extremely excited. This young man originally wasn't qualified to be here, but he had a strong background. You brat, you don't know the severity of your words. How can you provoke Gu Fei so casually? An old man said in a very displeased manner. When he mentioned Gu Fei, everyone present was taken aback. Jiu Fei was the god of slaughter of the human clan. Who would dare to provoke him? It seemed like no one had ever done so. Let's just wait and see. However, we must also be prepared to take action at any time. The Pang clan's patriarch said in an extremely gloomy tone. Compared to the Pang clan, the Skyfire clan was much faster. The forces of the other continents were also getting restless. It seemed like they were ready to divide up the entire East continent at any time. At this moment, the war between the chaotic Golden Rock clan and the Golden Crow clan suddenly broke out in the East continent without any warning. In an instant, the entire East continent was shrouded in the flames of war. The chaotic Golden Rock clan and the Earth Spirit clan resisted the attacks of the Heavenly God clan and the mysterious Snake clan, while Kang Q and the Golden Crow First Ancestor started fighting again. This time, Kang Q was actually able to fight the Golden Crow First Ancestor endlessly and was not at a disadvantage at all. This shocked the Golden Crow First Ancestor. How did this fella suddenly become so powerful in such a short time? The battle strength that Kang Q displayed was much stronger than before. It was impossible for the Golden Crow First Ancestor to suppress him. As the war broke out, cultivators could be seen fighting all over the East continent. In the beginning, Kang Q's side was caught off guard. However, they quickly recovered and started fighting the Golden Crow clan. No one knew who would unify the entire East continent. However, there was no doubt that the entire East continent would become one person's territory after this war. Would the world belong to the Golden Crow First Ancestor or Kang Q? No one knew, not even Jiu Fei, because he had decided not to interfere in this war. Chapter 35-38. The entire ancestral god realm was stirred up by the return of the peerless experts who had fallen countless years ago. The 5 continents of the ancestral god realm were in turmoil and chaos was imminent. However, there were signs of a realm war erupting in the East continent. A realm war was a world war. The last time a realm war broke out in the ancestral god realm was during the Great War of Gods and Devils when the Chaos Devil realm invaded the ancestral god realm. It was a foreign invasion that affected the entire ancestral god realm. Only a war that affected the entire ancestral god realm and could threaten the entire ancestral god realm could be called a realm war. At this moment, 2 super forces were in a stalemate in the East continent. Both forces seemed to be on par with each other and neither was confident of winning. Those who could influence the outcome of the war were cultivating in the depths of the Chaos Golden Rock race's ancestral land and would not make a move easily. Just as the 2 super forces of the East continent were at loggerheads, a man arrived at the Chaos Golden Rock race's ancestral land and requested to see Jiu Fei. You again? Kang Q came out personally. He had a headache when he saw the person. The person was none other than the East Pole Old Ancestor who was a peacemaker. The East Pole Old Ancestor was an influential figure in the East continent. Although Kang Q did not want to listen to him, he did not want to offend him. Haha, brother Kang Q, I trust you have been well since we last met. The Great Ancestor of the Eastern Pole Great Ancestor acted naturally. Of course, he didn't have much of a relationship with Kang Q, but he did have some friendship with Jiu Fei. Kang Q couldn't stop him if he wanted to see Jiu Fei. Don't tell me you're here to tell me not to fight the Golden Crow. Kang Q stared at the East Pole Old Ancestor and said, I'm here to see brother Jiu. Of course, it would be great if brother Kang Q could listen to me and not stoop to the same level as brother Golden Crow. The East Pole Old Ancestor said seriously. All right. Don't you want to see brother Jiu? Come with me. Seeing that the Great Ancestor of the East Pole was about to preach again, Kang Q quickly stopped him and led the way to the depths of the ancestors' land. The ancestral land of the chaotic Golden Rock race was naturally not a place that anyone could casually enter. There were many killing arrays set up in the ancestral land. Those who did not know the origin of the array would definitely die if they trespassed. The Great Ancestor of the East Pole sect naturally didn't say anything else and hurriedly followed. Jiu Fei cultivated in the depths of the ancestral land, where the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was the densest. He sat cross-legged on a boulder under a huge tree. Soon, Kang Q brought the Great Ancestor of the East Pole to the bottom of the rock. Fellow Daoist Jiu, you still have the leisure to cultivate here? The great ancestor of the East Pole sect jumped onto the boulder. Jiyu Fei opened his eyes, smiled, and gestured for the great ancestor of the East Pole to sit. The great ancestor of the East Pole sect sat cross-legged across from Jiyu Fei. At this time, Kang Qiu immediately left. He did not want to listen to the great ancestor of the East Pole sect's lecture. He had already guessed the great ancestor's intention for coming. He naturally did not want to listen to the great ancestor of the East Pole sect's nagging. Fellow Daoist East Pole, I might have already guessed your intention for coming. Jiyu Fei said calmly. Since you've already guessed it, I'll be straightforward. Can you persuade fellow Daoist Kang Qiu? You should know that the battle between him and fellow Daoist Golden Crow will probably destroy the East Continent and even the entire ancestral god realm. The great ancestor of the East Pole sect said emotionally. The matter shouldn't be as serious as you say, right? Jiyu Fei smiled. Why not? At this time, the ancestral god realm is like a barrel of gunpowder. As long as a spark falls into this barrel of gunpowder, it will explode. The battle between fellow Daoist Kang Qiu and fellow Daoist Golden Crow is the spark that ignites the barrel of gunpowder. The great ancestor of the East Pole sect said anxiously. The atmosphere of the entire East Continent had become extremely tense due to the confrontation between the two forces. Almost all the cultivators in the East Continent would be implicated by this battle. This is a personal grudge, it's not my place to interfere. Jiyu Fei said awkwardly. Fellow Daoist Jiyu, for the sake of the people of the East Continent and the entire ancestral god realm, you should stop this battle. The great ancestor of the East Pole sect continued to persuade. He thought that he would be able to persuade Jiyu Fei by persuading Jiyu Fei. Persuading Jiyu Fei would be equivalent to persuading Kang Qiu. Without Jiyu Fei's support, Kang Qiu's chaotic Golden Rock tribe would never have become the overlord of the East Continent. However, with the return of the Golden Crow ancestor, the chaotic Golden Rock tribe's position as the overlord of the East Continent was being challenged. This battle seemed to be unavoidable. Whether it was a personal grudge or the overlord status of the East Continent, Kang Qiu and the Golden Crow ancestor could not stop even if they wanted to. For the sake of the world. This is too big and too heavy. I can't wear it, and I don't dare to wear it. Jiyu Fei shook his head and said with a bitter smile. This guy actually brought up the matter of the world and wanted me to wear such a big hat. How could it be possible? This hat is definitely yours to wear. In the entire East Continent, apart from you, I'm afraid no one else is qualified to wear this hat. The great ancestor of the East Pole sect refused to give up. I think you should find someone else. Jiyu Fei was determined not to wear this hat. After all, if there was a first time, there would be a second time. If the great ancestor of the East Pole sect used the righteousness of the world to pressure him again, wouldn't Jiyu Fei be led by the nose again? Fellow Daoist Jiyu, in the face of righteousness, you should not shirk your responsibility. The great ancestor of the East Pole sect said. Sigh. How should I put this to you? It's useless to talk to me here. You should talk to Kang Qiu yourself. Or you can talk to the Golden Crow ancestor instead of me. Jiyu Fei said helplessly. This great ancestor of the East Pole sect is too talkative. It's like a fly beside my ear. No, it should be a bunch of flies buzzing in my ear. The great ancestor of the East Pole sect thought so, but he did not know what to say. Jiyu Fei was not the person involved. The person involved was Kang Qiu and the Golden Crow ancestor. As long as these two powerhouses did not meet, this battle could be avoided. However, the great ancestor of the East Pole sect knew very well that convincing these two fellas was definitely not as easy as convincing Jiyu Fei. I still need fellow Daoist Gu's help. The great ancestor of the East Pole sect insisted. Fellow Daoist East Pole, I'd like to help, but I can't. Jiyu Fei was stubborn. No matter what the great ancestor of the East Pole sect said, he did not agree. He still had a lot of things to settle. Fellow Daoist Jiyu, you should think about it. The great ancestor of the East Pole sect refused to give up. I've thought about it very clearly. There's no need to think about it anymore. Jiyu Fei shook his head and said. Think about it again. Saving a life is better than building a 7-storied pagoda. Chapter 35-39. The East Pole Old Ancestor was definitely a weirdo in the East Continent's cultivation world, or even the entire ancestral god realm's cultivation world. He was a super nice guy who acted as a peacemaker everywhere. However, his cultivation level was high, and his seniority was high. No one dared to offend him, so even if they didn't want to listen to his nagging, they had no choice but to listen. At this time, Gu Fei finally experienced the power of the great patriarch of the East Pole. This guy couldn't stop talking from the beginning. Later on, Gu Fei simply stopped talking. Thus, the great ancestor of the East Pole sect talked and talked, bringing up all sorts of great principles. However, it gave Gu Fei a headache. Gu Fei was bombarded indiscriminately by the East Pole Patriarch for a long time before the East Pole Patriarch finally stopped. He heaved a sigh of relief. However, after a while, the East Pole Patriarch spoke again. Sigh. Gu Fei sighed and sealed his own hearing. No matter what the great East Pole ancestor said, he could not hear a single word. Gu Fei really admired the great ancestor of the East Pole sect. This guy actually talked for an entire day. An entire day. He was too awesome. Who could lecture for an entire day? The East Pole Old Ancestor seemed to know that he couldn't convince Gu Fei, so he decided to talk to Kang Q. In order to stop the battle between Kang Q and the Golden Crow Ancestor, the East Pole Forefather tried his best, but he couldn't convince Gu Fei. He took it upon himself to save the common people. This was an extremely noble thing, but he also knew that his own power was limited. It was impossible for him to change everything. Gu Fei couldn't wait for the East Pole Forefather to leave. He hurriedly sent the East Pole Forefather out personally. The great ancestor of the East Pole Great Ancestor wanted to find Kang Q, but Kang Q refused to meet him. Hence, he could only leave the ancestral land of the Golden Rock clan and head towards the territory of the Golden Crow primogenitor. Since he couldn't convince Gu Fei and the others, he would talk to the Golden Crow Ancestor. The great ancestor of the Eastern Pole realm was still running around for the sake of saving the world. After the East Pole Great Ancestor left, Kang Q went to where Gu Fei was. He jumped onto the huge rock and sat opposite Gu Fei. Fellow Daoist East Pole's words are very reasonable. Gu Fei said after thinking for a while. You also want me to not fight Jin Wu? Kang Q raised his head and looked at Gu Fei. This is your business. It doesn't seem to have much to do with me. Whether you want to fight or not doesn't have much of an impact on me. Gu Fei said indifferently. Then you're thinking of. Kang Q was hesitant. It's nothing. I admire fellow Daoist East Pole's determination to save the world. However, there are some things that cannot be changed. Gu Fei said with a sigh. He had a very good impression of the East Pole Old Ancestor. Whether it was in the ancestral god realm or the other great worlds, there were very few people like the East Pole Old Ancestor. Kang Q didn't say anything and seemed to be deep in thought. All right, I'm going into seclusion too. Don't disturb me if there's nothing important. Gu Fei said to Kang Q, what if fellow Daoist East Pole comes back to look for you? Kang Q said. I won't see him. Gu Fei said and closed his eyes. Kang Q thought for a while, stood up and left the place. At this moment, in the ancestral vein of the Chaos Golden Rock race, a figure was frantically devouring the essence of the surrounding earth vein. An extremely powerful figure appeared in the void. It was a Chaos Demon Ape. A powerful demonic aura surged from the figure. This was the Chaos Demon Ape's primordial spirit devouring essence in preparation for the reconstruction of its body. In another place, there was also an extremely powerful existence frantically devouring the essence of the ancestral earth vein. Fortunately, there was enough essence in the ancestral earth vein, so there was no need to worry about the experts in the earth vein devouring it all. In fact, only a true extreme grade supremacy could devour the essence of the ancestral earth vein. At this time, the world had changed. Who would dare to use the power of the extreme grade supremacy? The 4 extreme grade supremacy each occupied a place in the ancestral earth vein to devour the essence of the ancestral earth vein to nourish themselves. Even extreme grade supremacy had to cultivate. Just as a storm was brewing in the ancestral god realm, a war broke out in the eastern region of the heaven realm. A golden ape walked out of a mountain and fought with an extremely powerful figure. A powerful energy fluctuation spread out, causing the entire world to tremble. Yuan Hong is getting stronger and stronger. Someone who was watching the battle from afar saw the golden ape swinging its golden spirit cudgel at the person. The person flew up and avoided the cudgel. However, the mountain behind this person was directly smashed by the golden spirit ape. Endless dust rose into the sky, rolling smoke and dust swept in all directions. Everyone was stunned when they saw the earth-shattering scene. Yuan Jiyu isn't weak either, even though it's just an incarnation. Someone said. After disappearing for a long time, Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian finally reappeared in front of the world. Of course, this was still an incarnation and not his real body. Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian had countless incarnations, but no one had ever seen his real body because those who had seen his real body were probably dead. You're just an incarnation. How dare you provoke me? You're courting death. Yuan Hong roared and smashed the golden cudgel in his hand at Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian's incarnation. Wherever the golden cudgel passed, the void trembled and a pitch-black spatial crack was left. Swoosh! Yuan Gu's incarnation disappeared into the void. The golden spirit ape's cudgel hit empty air. However, he had already cultivated his strength to the point where he could release and retract it at will. He immediately retracted his golden cudgel. In the next moment, the Yuan Jiyu incarnation silently appeared behind the golden spirit ape Yuan Hong and pointed a finger at him. An extremely sharp sword light immediately shot out from his finger towards the golden spirit ape. The golden spirit ape snorted coldly. A ball of golden light emerged from his body and blocked the incoming golden light. In the next moment, Yuan Gu's incarnation was sent flying by the golden spirit ape's cudgel. Die! Yuan Hong roared and smashed the head of Yuan Gu's incarnation with his cudgel, causing the incarnation to dissipate in the void. The spectators in the distance were shocked when they saw this scene. Yuan Hong's combat strength was too powerful. This was an absolute power. Yuan Hong held the golden spirit bat in his hand and was extremely powerful. His body exuded a tyrannical aura like a golden god of death that made people's hearts palpitate. While Yuan Hong was killing Yuan Gu's incarnation, two powerhouses were also fighting outside the demon race's ancestral court. Their battle was so intense that the sun and moon seemed to lose their luster. Chapter 3540. The world had changed, and the power of the extreme path had been suppressed by the heavens. At this time, some forces had become unscrupulous. Even the ancient Emperor Xian, who hadn't shown up for a long time, couldn't bear the loneliness and jumped out to take back everything he had lost. Thus, a great battle between the golden spirit ape Yuan Hong and the incarnation of the ancient Emperor Xian took place. The golden spiritual ape was no longer the same as before. It was able to easily destroy a clone of the late Yuan Jiyu Celestial Emperor. This shocked the late Yuan Jiyu Celestial Emperor. Damn it! The real body of the ancient Emperor Xian was nowhere to be found, but he couldn't help but be shocked and angry when he saw that one of his incarnations had been destroyed just like that. At this time, the golden spirit ape had left the eastern domain and no one knew where it had gone. He was used to being alone and could go wherever he wanted without any restrictions or scruples. Just like this time, so what if he had killed the incarnation of the ancient Emperor Xian? The leader of the demon race stationed in the eastern domain wanted to keep the golden spirit ape, but by the time he arrived, the golden spirit ape had already left. The old tortoise returned to the demon race's ancestral land in the heavenly realm. He felt that a great calamity was coming, so he had to be prepared. As the son of the Tai Huang, the old tortoise had not only unified the demon race in the heavenly realm, but even the demon race in the human realm had submitted to him. The demon race was unprecedentedly powerful. However, at this time, there were people who wanted to challenge the old tortoise's ruling position and seize the territory that the old tortoise had painstakingly fought for. These people were the descendants of the heavenly demon. The Tai Huang and the heavenly demon had been mortal enemies in the past. The two powerhouses of the demon race had fought for the position of supreme. In the end, the Tai Huang had defeated the heavenly demon and become the supreme of the demon race. The heavenly demon lineage was naturally unconvinced, so they had been entangled to this day. However, in previous confrontations, the descendants of the heavenly demon had always been at an absolute disadvantage and rarely won. Even the son of the heavenly demon had died in battle. However, the descendants of the heavenly demon had left behind many more descendants than the Tai Huang. This was because the heavenly demon was a romantic figure who showed mercy everywhere. It was publicly acknowledged that the heavenly demon had 18 sons. If those unknown descendants were added, the bloodline left behind by the sky demons would be even greater. At this time, the experts of the heavenly demon clan took advantage of the change in the sky and the suppression of the extreme path's power. They brazenly attacked the demon clan's ancestral land, shocking the entire heaven realm's cultivation world. "Old turtle, come out and die." A loud shout pierced through stone and gold, directly reaching the depths of the demon clan's ancestral land. "Whose dog is barking outside?" A voice rang out from the ancestral grounds of the Yarrow race. A figure walked out from the depths of the ancestral grounds. A powerful draconic aura erupted from this person, and a huge illusory image of an ancestral dragon appeared on his body. "Who are you calling a dog?" Outside the ancestral land of the demon race, a 30-meter-tall golden-haired giant glared at the man who walked out from the depths of the ancestral land of the demon race and roared, "Whoever barks outside is a dog. What about it?" The man looked at the blonde giant with disdain and said, "You're the old turtle's disciple, Xiaoqing?" At this time, a young man in white suddenly walked out from behind and stared at the expert of the dragon clan in front of him with a murderous look in his eyes. "There's a path to heaven, but you refuse to take it. There's no door to hell, but you insist on coming. Let me kill all of you sky demons." The expert of the dragon clan sneered and glanced at the group of people in front of him. Then, he stretched out his right hand and a black rod immediately appeared in his hand. This expert of the dragon clan was Xiaoqing. At this time, Xiaoqing was extremely powerful. Facing the group of experts, he did not show the slightest bit of fear. Instead, his eyes were filled with excitement. His cultivation had reached the peak of the Holy Master realm. One more step and he would become a quasi-supreme. At this time, he needed to use a life-and-death battle to stimulate all of his potential. Blindly burying himself in cultivation would not allow Xiaoqing to break through to the quasi-supreme realm. "You're courting death." The blonde giant directly strode forward and raised the giant axe in his hand to chop down at Xiaoqing's head. A powerful energy wave erupted from the golden giant axe. The young man in white did not stop the blonde giant. "Haha, we still don't know who's courting death." Xiaoqing laughed and the black rod in his hand directly met the giant axe. Clang! The giant axe in the blonde giant's hand immediately shattered. The broken pieces of the giant axe splashed onto the body of the blonde giant. The small pieces actually pierced through his flesh. What? The golden-haired giant's shock was no small matter. However, he no longer had the chance to feel true fear because the next moment, his huge body turned into a cloud of blood mist and even his spirit was shattered. With just one strike, Xiaoqing destroyed the blonde giant in both body and spirit. The remaining heaven demons were shocked to see this scene. The golden-haired giant was a demon race Saint Venerate, but he was smashed to death with a single strike of the rod. "Little guy, you deserve to die." An old man walked out from the camp of the descendants of the sky demons. It was a skinny old man with white hair and brows. As soon as the old man walked out, the surrounding void immediately became cold. "Mysterious yin demon venerable." Just as the old man walked out, a voice came from the ancestral land of the demon race. Then, a group of people appeared in everyone's sight. "Isn't this guy cultivating in seclusion in the extreme north? Why is he here?" Many people were shocked. Mysterious Yin Demon Venerable was definitely an extremely powerful demon race expert. His cultivation had already reached the great success realm of the Holy Venerate. He was only one step away from becoming a quasi-supreme. After the heavenly changes, quasi-supreme was the strongest existence in the heaven realm. This was because all cultivators, even those who were once supremes, could only use the strength of a quasi-supreme. Flaunting your seniority. Come on, let me see what you're capable of. Xiaoqing said to mysterious Yin demon venerable in disdain. Boom. The mystic Yin demon sovereign did not say anything else. A terrifying chilling aura immediately erupted from his body, and the entire space seemed to be frozen. Xiaoqing, who was opposite mysterious Yin demon venerable, was directly sealed in ice. Mysterious Yin demon venerable grinned and was about to get rid of Xiaoqing. However, just as he approached, the ice on Xiaoqing's body exploded with a loud boom. A figure appeared in front of mysterious Yin demon venerable in an instant and smashed his rod towards him. Black rolling moved rapidly in the void. As it rubbed against the air, a piercing sound was heard. In an instant, it smashed in front of mysterious Yin demon venerable. Mysterious Yin demon venerable was shocked. He did not expect this guy to be so powerful. Clang. Black rolling in Xiaoqing's hand smashed against mysterious Yin demon venerable's wrist. Mysterious Yin demon venerable was wearing a wrist guard. It was not an ordinary wrist guard, but a Dao weapon. However, mysterious Yin demon venerable only felt an unimaginable force erupting from his opponent's black rod, causing him to fall from the sky. Boom. With a loud bang, mysterious Yin demon venerable descended from the sky, causing the ground to collapse. It was as terrifying as the end of the world. Roar. Mysterious Yin demon venerable roared in anger. A powerful force erupted from his body. The surrounding soil immediately floated up and danced around him. Swoosh. In the next moment, mysterious Yin demon venerable rushed out of the huge pit on the ground. At the same time, the wrist guard on his hand suddenly shattered. This, mysterious Yin demon venerable was shocked and furious. His opponent's strength was far beyond his imagination. This guy was most likely a holy venerable pinnacle expert. Just as the Black Yin Demon Lord was distracted, a black rod smashed onto the body of the Black Yin Demon Lord, shattering his physical body into pieces. However, mysterious Yin Demon Venerable's figure reappeared in front of everyone in the next moment. However, the moment mysterious Yin Demon Venerable finished reassembling his physical body, Xiaoqing's black rod smashed against him again. This time, mysterious Yin Demon Venerable could not reassemble his physical body. This was because mysterious Yin Demon Venerable's Yuan spirit had been shattered by Xiaoqing's rod. How is this possible? The experts of the Sky Demon tribe could not help but be shocked. Even mysterious Yin Demon Venerable was smashed to death by Xiaoqing. This expert from the Dragon tribe definitely had the cultivation and battle strength of a holy venerable pinnacle expert. Lord Xiaoqing is mighty. Lord Xiaoqing is mighty. The group of people who walked out of the ancestral grounds of the demon tribe cheered excitedly when they saw Xiaoqing kill mysterious Yin Demon Venerable with a single strike. Hihi, I'll take you on. The young man in white walked forward. A descendant of the Sky Demon? Xiaoqing stared at the young man in white as Dao patterns intertwined in his eyes. He could sense a familiar aura from the young man. It was the aura of a descendant of the Sky Demon. The strength of a descendant of the Sky Demon was undeniable. Xiaoqing did not dare to be careless. He stared at the young man in white and tightened his grip on the black rod. Swoosh. At this moment, the young man in white suddenly disappeared into the void. Xiaoqing was shocked. In the next moment, his figure also disappeared into the void. As soon as his figure disappeared into the void, the place where he originally stood collapsed and turned into a black hole. Bam! A dull sound of collision rang out. The figures of Xiaoqing and the young man in white were so fast that they could not be seen by the naked eye. Everyone was indescribably shocked when they saw this scene. The speed of these two experts was too fast. Even other saint sovereigns couldn't catch their figures. There was a reason why Xiaoqing was so fast. He had fused the anti-void secret technique with his movement technique. With the support of spatial power, his speed was raised to the limit. However, the speed of the young man in white was not slower than Xiaoqing at all. This surprised Xiaoqing. The descendant of the Sky Demon was indeed capable. Chapter 3541. In the Heaven Realm, outside the ancestral land of the Heavenly Monster, Xiaoqing and the descendant of the Heavenly Monster fought endlessly. Both of them used their strongest moves but couldn't do anything to each other. Back then, The Taihuang and the heavenly monster's cultivation levels were only on par with each other. Although the Taihuang won in the end, the descendants of the heavenly monsters weren't any weaker than the Taihuangs. The grudge that had been entangled for thousands of years had continued to the present day. Xiaoqing was the old turtle's disciple, so he inherited the old turtle's teachings in cultivation. The old turtle even passed on the black rod he obtained in the virtual sky world to Xiaoqing. With the black rod in hand, Xiaoqing fought fiercely against the descendant of the heavenly monster. The dull sounds of the collisions were like muffled thunder, shaking the blood and chi of the others. Is this all the descendant of the heavenly monster can do? Xiaoqing said disdainfully as he attacked. Little guy, don't be too arrogant. Be careful, or I won't be able to hold back and beat you to death, the descendant said coldly. The heavenly demon descendant coldly spoke. His hands danced about, causing the void to constantly distort and actually block all of Little Qing's attacks. The divine ability displayed by the descendant of the heavenly monster was very similar to the chaotic secret technique, one of the 9 secrets of the immortal path. They achieved the same result through different means, which astonished Xiaoqing. However, there was no doubt that the chaotic secret technique, one of the 9 secrets of the immortal path, was superior to this secret technique. After all, the chaotic secret technique was an extreme cultivation method. Ha, Xiaoqing laughed. You can beat me to death. Don't joke around. Xiaoqing laughed wildly and kept smashing the descendant with the black rod in his hand. If he was hit once, the descendant would either die or be crippled. The black rod in his hand was a weapon of extreme cultivation. Then I'll show you how powerful I am. The white-clothed young man's expression turned cold. Then, he waved his hands and an endless amount of heavenly demonic energy immediately gushed out from his hands. 9 black vortexes appeared in the air before him. Rumble, the entire world was shaking. The moment the 9 black vortexes appeared, it was as if the entire world was going to be devoured by them. Xiaoqing saw the space around him shattering. He was actually flying forward involuntarily. It was as if his body was about to be torn apart and devoured by the 9 black holes. This is. Xiaoqing was shocked, but he didn't panic. In the next moment, a ripple of energy surged from his body, and then the devouring power that enveloped him vanished. Boom! A huge black hole emerged from his body, devouring everything around him. Even the power of the 9 black hole vortexes was forcefully devoured. What? The descendant of the sky demon was taken aback. He never imagined that his opponent's supernatural power would be so terrifying that it could devour his power. Moreover, this supernatural power seemed to come from the same source as his own. What's going on? The heavenly demon's descendant could not understand. He did not know that Xiaoqing cultivated the 9 esoteric arts of the immortal Tao. One of the 9 esoteric arts of the chaotic chaos allowed him to mimic his opponent's divine arts and use their power as his own. Rumble, the power of the black hole that emerged from Xiaoqing's body continued to increase. The black hole grew larger and larger as he continued to guide his opponent's power to his side. Die. Xiaoqing unleashed the chaotic chaos secret art with all his might. The huge black hole went straight for the descendant of the sky demon. The descendant of the sky demon was utterly shocked. All he could do was retreat. He could sense that his power was rapidly draining away. The power of his opponent's supernatural power was truly astonishing. Could this be the legendary supernatural power? When the descendant of the sky monster thought of this, he could not help but feel both shocked and furious. At that moment, the space around him was collapsing. In the next moment, the 9 black holes in front of him collapsed, their power completely devoured by the descendant of the sky monster. The next moment, the descendant of the sky demon was devoured by the huge black hole vortexes. What? The demonic cultivators that the descendant of the sky demon brought with him were all dumbfounded at the sight. The descendant of the sky demon could not even kill a disciple of the old tortoise. It was very likely that he would be killed instead. How was this possible? Whoosh! At that moment, a figure descended from the sky. It was a tall, white-haired old man with a pair of golden eyes and a pair of silver horns on his head. The old man was the guardian of the descendant of the sky demon and had a powerful cultivation of quasi-supreme level. The guardian of the descendant of the sky demon could no longer sit still when the descendant of the sky demon was devoured by the black hole vortexes. He immediately appeared from the dark, intending to rescue the descendant of the sky demon. However, at that moment, a figure walked out from the depths of the ancestral grounds of the demonic race. It was also an old man, and a seemingly ordinary one at that. When the old man appeared, the guardian of the descendant of the sky demon dared not move recklessly. This was because a faintly discernible aura had already enveloped him. As soon as he moved, the seemingly harmless old man would instantly turn into a god of death and deliver a fatal blow to the guardian, taking his life. The guardian of the descendant of the sky demon was sweating profusely. Even the other cultivators who followed the descendant of the sky demon were inexplicably shocked when they saw the old man. They never expected to meet such a legendary figure here. The old man's background was frighteningly powerful. The moment the old man appeared, almost all the cultivators who followed the descendant of the sky demon wanted to retreat. They all stared nervously at the old man. "It's you." The guardian of the descendant of the sky demon stared at the old man who walked step by step out of the ancestral grounds of the demonic race. His voice trembled. "There's actually someone who knows me." An old voice rang out. The old man seemed like an ordinary old man with one foot in the grave, but no one dared to act presumptuously in front of him. The followers of the descendant of the sky demon were even more terrified. At that moment, there was a sudden violent fluctuation of power in the sky. The black hole that Xiaoqing had condensed was actually collapsing from the inside out. An extremely powerful figure rushed out from the depths of the black hole. Good heavens! Xiaoqing could not help but be moved. This descendant of the sky demon was not as weak as he had imagined. It would not be easy to defeat this guy. He was decisive and directly detonated the black hole vortexes. Boom! There was a loud noise as the extremely terrifying power of destruction erupted in an instant, instantly drowning the descendant of the sky demon who was rushing out from the black hole vortexes. However, the descendant of the sky demon broke through the destructive power and rushed out. The descendant of the sky demon had just raised his spear when Xiaoqing's black rod was already about to hit his head. Chapter 3542. Xiaoqing swung his rod at the descendant of the heavenly demon, who had just emerged from the shroud of destructive power. Just as the rod was about to smash the descendant's head, a burst of power erupted from the descendant's body. A scroll rushed out of the descendant's body and unfurled. The power instantly swallowed the descendant into the scroll. The scroll immediately shot up into the sky and disappeared in an instant. The aura of the heavenly demon, the old man who had emerged from the ancestral land of the heavenly demon, glanced in the direction where the scroll had flown and said, "The heavenly demon? Great ancestor, are you saying that the heavenly demon has taken action?" An expert from the demon clan beside the old man asked in shock. Hadn't the heavenly demon disappeared for countless years and was said to have fallen? How could there be the aura of the heavenly demon here? "I'm talking about the scroll that appeared just now." The old man retracted his gaze and sighed. Even if he were to take action, he might not be able to intercept the scroll because it was something left behind by the heavenly demon. It could save one's life at a critical moment. The descendant of the heavenly demon fled. A scroll sucked him into it and flew away. "Since you're here, all of you should stay. Don't leave." The old man looked at the people brought by the descendant and said indifferently, "What are you doing?" The guardian of the descendant of the heavenly demon asked in terror. The old man did not speak. He waved his right hand and the followers of the descendant of the heavenly demon immediately turned into a mist of blood. Their bodies and souls were completely destroyed and they could not be more dead. Even the guardian of the descendant of the heavenly demon was sent flying. He coughed up blood continuously. "I'll leave him to you." The old man pointed at the guardian of the descendant of the heavenly demon and said. He then turned around and walked into the ancestral land of the demon clan, disappearing without a trace. Xiaoqing did not hesitate and immediately smashed the guardian of the descendant of the heavenly demon to death. He then carefully searched the fellow's body from head to toe. Not bad. Xiaoqing was pleasantly surprised. He found many things on the guardian's body. There were pills, unrefined elixirs, and materials for refining weapons. Anything that could be collected by the Tao protector of the Sky Demon's descendant was naturally valuable. After collecting the spoils, Xiaoqing walked into the ancestral land of the demon clan. Peace returned to the world. The celestial demon clan had once again fallen at the hands of the Tai Huang's descendants. Only one Sky Demon descendant managed to escape, while the rest perished. The Sky Demon lineage would still make a comeback. This grudge that had been entangled for tens of millions of years would continue. No one knew when it would end. While Xiaoqing was chasing away the descendant of the heavenly demon, in the ancestral god realm, in the East Continent, a great war was about to erupt. On a dark and windy night, Ji Yufei quietly left the chaotic Golden Rock race's ancestral land and headed straight for the deity race's ancestral land. Soon, his figure appeared in the sky above the deity race's ancestral land. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! A series of shouts broke the peace in the ancestral land. Countless experts of the deity race walked out from all over the ancestral land. An incomparably powerful aura erupted from the valley. The valley was like a fairyland. The spiritual energy was dense. Cultivating here would definitely yield twice the results with half the effort. At this moment, a tall figure walked out from an ancient temple behind the valley. This person held a scepter in his hand. He was an awe-inspiring white-haired old man. This person was the clan lord of the deity race. The clan lord of the deity race personally walked out and soared into the sky. He stood in front of Ji Yufei and stared fiercely at Ji Yufei. "You're Ji Yufei?" The clan lord stared at Ji Yufei and asked. An extremely powerful divine power erupted from his body. His long hair fluttered even though there was no wind. "I'm Ji Yufei." Ji Yufei said his name without any hesitation. There was no need for him to hide anything. "Dao friend Ji Yu, what are you doing here in the middle of the night?" The patriarch of the deity clan said indifferently. At this moment, everyone in the fairyland-like valley stared nervously at the two figures in the sky, especially the higher-ups of the deity race. "Nothing much. I just don't want you to side with the Golden Crow's primogenitor. As long as you stay here obediently, I won't make things difficult for you," Ji Yufei said. "What did you say?" The clan lord was angry but didn't dare to say anything. One had to know that the other party was Ji Yufei. If he didn't agree with him, he would suffer a calamity. "I want you to stay in the ancestral land," Ji Yufei said to the deity race patriarch. "That's impossible." The clan lord refused immediately. Although the deity race wasn't as strong as the Golden Crow race, they wouldn't surrender just because of a sentence from Ji Yufei. "Then I can only beat you until you say it's possible." As Ji Yufei said that, a powerful battle force erupted from his body. The celestial clan master couldn't help being startled when he saw this. At that moment, he suddenly discovered that Ji Yufei had suddenly disappeared. "Oh no!" The patriarch of the deity clan was startled, but before he could react, a fist had already smashed into his nose. The patriarch of the heavenly god clan let out a blood-curdling scream as he was sent flying. When he stabilized his body, everyone saw that the tall nose of the celestial clan patriarch had been smashed by Ji Yufei's fist. The deity clan patriarch's mouth was filled with blood. Ji Yufei's punch had not only broken his nose, but it had also injured his mouth, knocking out a few teeth. Roar! The patriarch of the deity clan roared at the sky, his voice shaking the sky. Terrifying divine power rippled out from his body, forming a storm that swept in all directions. At this time, the clan lord's ancestral formation had already been activated. A layer of divine light enveloped the entire valley, blocking the mighty energy fluctuations from the sky. The clan lord was truly enraged. "Others might be afraid of you, Ji Yufei, but I, the patriarch of the deity clan, was only halfway through his sentence when he couldn't continue." This was because Ji Yufei's fist had already smashed into him again. This time, his left eye was hit. The clan lord went crazy. He wasn't a match for Ji Yufei at all. He was completely being oppressed. Ji Yufei's movement technique was extremely fast, and so was his movements. There was no longer any suspense in the following exchange. Ji Yufei had completely crushed the patriarch of the celestial clan, beating him up miserably. In the ancestral land of the clan, all the clansmen of the clan were collectively dumbfounded. Their high and mighty ancestor had actually been beaten to the point where he couldn't even retaliate. How was this possible?